Stimulating late-night sports conversation for people who know that just trying to find someone sober to talk to at this time of night is like trying to find a pig on the moon.
In the early morning mist I see.
No rules news debate from around the world and around the bend. The Two Mikes.
Apply more lager.
On Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mikes podcast.
That's what it's called, right? You'll be getting Le Sac if you carry on like this. It's like Brendan Rodgers.
That's right, yeah, Brendan Rodgers got Le Sac,
yeah.
all right, yeah.
Who ate Le Sac?
It was an 11-year-old Schnauzer Sasha.
Do you mean a Schnauzer?
Schnauzer, is it? Schnauzer, yeah. The Bruins are ruined, so get it doon.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and it's time to say a very good morning for the start of our week to Mr. Mike Parry. What on earth are you doing?
Sorry?
What are you doing?
I'm sorry, mate. Yeah, I've got a bit distracted there.
Why have you got sellotape?
I'm fixing the headphones.
I thought you were going to get a new set of headphones.
I forgot to go to the headphone shop.
You forgot to go to the headphone shop?
Yeah, I did.
What do you mean, from Friday until Tuesday morning, you forgot to go? What were you doing? It was keeping you from the headphone shop.
I had a very, very busy weekend.
Did you really?
Very busy weekend.
Doing what?
All sorts of important things.
Really?
Yeah, which don't concern you.
Okay.
But are very important to my life.
Well, I think you would have been here. I mean, you've been here hours, right?
Yeah,
Surely you could have put your headphones together before you actually walked into the studio, for heaven's sake.
I actually forgot they were broken.
You forgot they were broken, and you forgot to go to the shop.
Yeah, but now I think I've mended them.
Really?
I think I've mended them. Anyway,
well, you're still not wearing them.
Yeah, well, hang on.
What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them anyway?
Well, I told you they pop in my left ear, and I don't know if my left ear's gone wrong or my headphones have gone wrong.
Yeah, well, I could suggest it's probably both.
I get lack of audio communication in my left ear.
Really?
Yeah. I tried over the weekend, by the way, because I had 2 showers a day over the weekend because I was out and about.
What do you mean you had 2 showers a day?
Well, I was out walking on both days, actually.
Yeah.
When I walk, I'd come back and always have a shower in case I've got Lyme disease. And
well, that's not going to stop you getting Lyme disease.
Well,
Lyme disease is because your tick bites into your skin, and it leaves its mark in there.
It might be hanging around. But anyway, the point is, I directed the here. Look,
no, you're not talking to the microphone.
No, I'm sorry, I'm trying to plug it in. Yeah, what I did is I directed my high-powered spray.
High-powered.
It is very high-powered.
So like high karate.
No, it is very high-powered. It's the sort of thing that you can exfoliate your skin in my showers because the
sound of that.
No, the power
of the... use a loofah like everybody else.
No, the power of the jet is so strong out of the nozzle of the shower head, if you see what I mean, that it bounces off your face. So I put a scrub on my face first, right?
Scrub?
In case
what sort of scrub?
Well, in case the Lyme ticks are hanging around on my face.
Well, no, that won't get rid of them.
A scrub is like a sort of white mask type thing, okay?
Well, you bought a white mask?
No. It's this foundation stuff. You put it all over your face.
Where'd you buy that from?
Eh?
Where'd you buy that from?
Boots.
What are you, some kind of metrosexual?
No.
You're going around scrubbing your face with scrub.
No.
You're the least likely person to be buying those kind of products.
Everybody should do that sort of thing. But anyway, the point of story. I'll put my
Your
headphones
skin
on
does
now.
look very soft and smooth, actually.
Actually, let me see.
Is that any better?
That's not bad. That's not bad. Still a bit dodgy. Right, I think I have to get a new pair. Now, what I was going to say was...
Try to remember to get a new pair before tomorrow's show.
Yes, I will. Now, what I was going to say was...
I don't want to hear about you scrubbing your face and whether you've avoided getting Lyme disease. You've got an awful lot of stuff to talk about.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is, what I then did was, I then directed the high-powered jet down both ears.
Down both ears?
Yeah.
Inside?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, well, you could get water in the ear for that.
No, that's like a syringing type effect. You can pay hundreds of pounds to get your ears done.
Yeah, or you can get the doctor to do it on the NHS.
Well, you could do, yeah. And remember, it's this time of the year now, you've got to have your flu jab as well, because they've had the flu jab.
No, I'm not getting a flu jab.
Yeah, you should get a flu jab.
No, last year, did they not say flu jabs actually were more or less pointless last year?
Well,
you don't remember that story?
Well, I do sort of remember that story, yeah. But anyway, look,
and you got flu anyway last year.
I did get flu last year
even though you had a flu jab.
But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, well, anyway, got much more important things to talk about.
Yes, we have, I agree.
Personal hygiene, personal health and all the rest of it.
Yes, I agree.
Brendan Rodgers has been sacked. Liverpool are looking for a new manager. Dick Advocaat walks away from Sunderland, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking for a new manager. Stuart Lancaster is still in his job, despite the fact that he said, judge me on these 2 games, Wales and Australia, which he's lost. He's out of the World Cup for the first time. The host nation's out. He's still sitting there going, well, we've got a big game to prepare for. I've got news for him. He hasn't got a big game to prepare for.
Who cares?
He's got a useless game to prepare for, which nobody's going to watch.
No, that's absolutely right. Leo, imagine this. You and I are here, right? Yeah. And then at 4 o'clock, I go off home, right?
Yeah.
Now, during the next 3 hours, I'm telling the audience, give us a call, the number and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm saying to them, contact us at the Two Mics and all this kind of stuff, And then, you and I will weigh up the show to go tonight, great, and all that kind of stuff. See you tomorrow night, Mike, okay? Right. And then half an hour into my journey on the way home, the phone rings, hello, Mike, it's the boss here. Yeah. Oh, sorry, the man who owns, the organisation which employs you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, hello. Yeah, look, I'm afraid that we've decided to withdraw your contract. Yeah. I'm afraid you're fired.
Terminate it.
I mean, that is not very nice, is it?
Well, you know what?
It's a shocking way to go.
Well, not really. I mean, to be honest, I've been fired plenty of times in my life, and it's never particularly pleasant. No. Usually you see it coming. Difference between Brendan Rodgers and me is he didn't see it coming. I mean, do you hear what he said after the
absolutely.
game? 1-1 draw with Everton, which under the circumstances is not a terrible result.
No, not a terrible result.
And when they said you've got 3 games to save your job, basically he beat Aston Villa. He got a win, did he not, against a draw in the Europa League, didn't he? Yeah. And then another draw against Everton. I mean, it wasn't the worst kind of 3 results he could have got.
No, it wasn't, but they'd already decided before the Everton game that he was going to go.
Yeah, but even then, he still didn't see it coming. He was still blaming the media for cooking up a story. He says, I understand that this is what they do.
Funny enough.
There's no story out there at all. I'm more secure. Or you meant insecure rather than unsecure.
That's right, yeah. Funny enough, I was talking to pals off a minute ago. I didn't realise he'd withdrawn all communication with local media people.
Is that right?
Apparently, he didn't talk to the Post and Echo much at all. From being, the most available man in the 12 months after he nearly won the Premier League. I think he was on TalkSport about 3 times in 1 week once. He became reclusive and withdrawn and saw media plots against him and all that kind of stuff.
Not only media plots, but did he not say that he thought there was this sort of outer body of ex-Liverpool players who were literally conspiring against him?
Yes, but actually, the media plots he was imagining in his head weren't that he kept reading headlines saying he was useless. He, according to people up there who dealt with on a daily basis, he was very unhappy that he wasn't reading media headlines saying how brilliant he was every day.
Yeah, right.
And because those weren't appearing,
Well, it was that great piece in The Guardian last Monday in which it said that after the Aston Villa game, the more you listen to Brendan Rodgers, the more you realise that he thinks he's got better as Liverpool have got worse.
That's right, yeah. And it was all down to the size of the ground and his players not having the sort of courage to man up to being a Liverpool player. And it was really odd stuff. But anyway.
But he's now said to be devastated. And I have to say, you always see people and professionals, and you just said it as well, it's never nice to get fired. It's not nice to wish somebody out of a job and all of that. Let's not forget, we're dealing here with a multi-million-pound contract.
I was about to say
we're dealing here with a payoff somewhere in the region, I would assume, of at least 5 million, maybe more.
I would think so, because he only renewed the contract last year, didn't he?
Exactly.
He got a new contract last year.
As much as you don't want people to lose their jobs as such, this is not like losing a proper job where you depend on it to feed your family.
It is the best business in the world to be in, football management, and in which to fail.
Yes.
The compensation factor is massive.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how much Davy Moyes got, but I'm sure that was north of 5 million.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Because he had a 6-year contract or something, didn't he? And he'll have come to some deal on it, nevertheless.
I'll say he's been mentioned in the dispatches about the Sunderland job.
He's said he doesn't want it.
Has he?
Doesn't want it.
Why not?
He just doesn't want it.
He'd rather bask in the sort of, do you get that? Do you rather bask in the leather regions of the La Liga?
Is that a pun? Is it? Basque?
Well, he's in the Basque country, isn't he?
In the Basque region.
Yeah.
God, you're so pleased with that little quip, aren't you? Is that the first one that you've made?
I just came up
with
it.
You just came up with it.
I never thought of it before.
I tell you what, mate, you shouldn't have come up with it. You shouldn't have bothered, What
well, I'm sorry. Let's go back to talking about your exfoliating scrub, shall we?
Anyway, what I'm saying is Davy Moyes, I think, will come back to what he believes.
Maybe he'll get a Liverpool job.
No, he won't. No, he's not applying for that. He couldn't take that job.
Could he not?
That'd be impossible. 11 years as Everton manager?
Why not?
Utterly impossible.
Yeah, but we live in a modern world now.
A ridiculous assertion.
I mean, people at the weekend were saying, now we're just waiting for Jose Mourinho to get fired so he can get a Liverpool job.
Well, that's much more credible than Davy Moyes taking up Liverpool.
I mean, no matter how hard he tries, he can't get fired.
Who?
Jose.
No, that's right. No, well, apparently he's been given a stay of execution, but that quite surprises me, really. I would have thought Mr. Abramovich might have been in a position to say, is he threatening me? He's threatening that I can't sack him.
Yeah.
Well, I better remind him who runs this place,
right.
And who owns it and all that kind of stuff. I'm surprised that didn't happen.
But the bottom line difference between Chelsea and Liverpool is that Jose Mourinho still is regarded as one of the great coaches and has been one of the great coaches. His track record will tell you that.
Yeah.
So why would you get rid of him for somebody who's not as good? Whereas with Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers hasn't proved himself as a great coach at all.
No, he hasn't. I read a fantastic piece by Matthew Side, I think it was, in
the Times.
Yeah. And he so ripped Jose Mourinho apart. He said the image of Jose Mourinho as the leader now and the man that's got a fast quip and all that is so outdated now. He's burnt his candle, you know what I mean? He says he left Real Madrid because everybody at Real Madrid, including the players, had completely lost respect for him.
Yeah.
Because this siege mentality...
He fell out with Iker Casillas, didn't he?
Yeah, this siege mentality that he builds everywhere he goes... As Matthew Side said in his piece, he said, it works for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, so it works on a couple of instances. Yeah. So Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger use it selectively, you know what I mean, to motivate their players. Whereas Jose uses it every day, every hour, every week. Right. It's the referees again. They're all against us and all this kind of stuff.
But he can't he can maintain it when he's up at the top end of the league, but not when he's down at the bottom end.
No, that's right. And the point of this piece...
John Terry? Was an awful performance for him.
Yeah, was that he's now completely lost the respect of those people who work for him. Yeah. They no longer see this image of this great man. They see a guy who's scrabbling around for excuses and causing all sorts of trouble all the time to deflect from the real issue, which is that he's not managing Chelsea very well at the moment.
He's not.
Yeah.
We still can't work out
what's
going on.
You're right about John Terry,
Can't work out what's going on. We've got loads to talk about. We haven't got to Stuart Lancaster yet. Much more is coming up. We can, of course, take your calls as well. 08717 22 3344. We've got Steve Nicol coming up in this hour as well. Yes. We are the two mics.
We are.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Of course, it is winners and losers coming up a little bit later on this morning. And we've got plenty of winners and losers to talk about, Mr. Parry. A couple of tweets for you that have just come in.
Okay.
Mark says this. Porky would be in the same position as Rodgers, except when they tried to tell him he's fired, he can't hear because of the headphones.
Yeah, that's true.
Danny says England still need to win and finish third to automatically qualify for the next World Cup in Japan. If not, oh dear. Well, I'm sure they'll probably beat Uruguay, but I'm not sure that too many people are going to be too interested in watching it.
Exactly. I mean, wonder what the viewing figures will be. They're 11.1 million, for that game on Saturday night.
Yeah. Fantastic game, by the way.
It was a fantastic game.
I didn't appreciate all the kind of goading that you were doing as well, by sort of trying to make out that I was, for some reason, supporting Australia, which I never said I was supporting Australia. Never did.
You said you wanted Australia to win.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes,
I said that because of the mediocrity sort of exercise by Stuart Lancaster and the players, that if they did not turn it on, then I would be more than happy to see Australia win, which is not the same as saying that I'm going to support them.
I thought your attitude was disgraceful.
No, but you tried to make it into some kind of, ligging exercise because the head of this company happens to be an Australian.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yes, you did.
Not at all. That never entered my head. Honestly, I've had no communication with the gentleman concerned.
That's what you tweeted.
What?
You said that I was crawling to him.
Yes,
and that was the reason I was doing it.
I think there's elements of that, definitely.
Entirely wrong.
Their star was this guy Bernard Foley, wasn't it?
That's right.
Why does the commentator call him Bernard Foley?
Well, because some people pronounce it like that.
Bernard? It's not Bernard, it's Bernard.
Well, it's like St. Bernard, isn't it? Some people say St. Bernard
instead
of St. Bernard.
Well, what do you call that dog with the rum round its neck? That's a St. Bernard, isn't it?
That's what I just said.
Goes and rescues people
in
the snow.
That's what I just said.
Helps.
I just said that.
Helps them to rebladderate when they're suffering from hypothermia.
In America, they say St. Bernard.
St. Bernard, Bernard Foley.
Maybe that's the same in Australia, I don't know.
Yeah, they look very good, didn't they?
They did.
A good team will have to beat them. Now, what I need to talk to you about is the Liverpool situation is absolutely very, very interesting.
Absolutely very, very interesting.
Because Ancelotti won't take that job, in my view, because he normally goes to clubs which are already good, and he keeps them good and makes them better.
Right. And also,
he doesn't go and rebuild a club over 5 years.
Yeah, but also they haven't got any star players.
They haven't got any star players. And he hasn't got 5 years, Ancelotti. I'm sorry. He's of an age now.
He's got a bad back as well.
He's got a bad back, and he lives in Canada. He's got a Canadian wife, and he won't want to come to England for 3-4 years and do this rebuilding job.
Yeah.
Now, Klopp might want to do that.
Right.
But I don't know if he's weighed this up properly.
I'm not sure if he has either. I mean, the papers seem very sure that Klopp is being sort of spoken to, and the deal is, if not done, very close to being done. Rodney Marsh saying there that on the Sports Bar that he heard that Klopp was coming into town last night.
What would happen if Klopp took over at Liverpool for 2 years?
Right.
Because he hasn't said which club. He said, I would like to work in the Premier League. Yeah. Right? He wants to work in the Premiership, right? Yeah. So get this scenario. He comes to this country, he starts a fine rebuilding job at Liverpool, okay?
Right.
He's given lots of money to do it.
They can't give any more money than they gave to Brendan Rodgers.
No, that's right.
300 million quid.
He makes himself familiar with the Premier League, what it's all about. He looks at all the other teams, he sees what's going on, and then in 2 years' time, when Arsene Wenger retires, he moves to Arsenal.
Well, there's a lot of Arsenal fans who would like him to move to
How
Arsenal.
about that? What about that?
I don't think that's a completely out of the question scenario.
This is what I'm thinking.
I don't see Arsene Wenger retiring anytime soon, though.
Well, I could see it happen. I mean, look, this season, hovering around second, aren't they, in the league now after the weekend results? But what a poor Premier League it is this season.
Well, it's
erratic,
a strange Premier League, isn't it?
But
also, only a few days before that,
yes.
Arsenal fans were all calling for him to be fired.
Of course.
He's come to the end of his rope.
Of course.
Couldn't beat Olympiacos.
But you see, that could all happen again. These 2 games against Bayern Munich coming up and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Could still happen again. But anyway, what I'm saying is...
But how about if Klopp does that, right?
Yes.
And he spends 2 years rebuilding Liverpool, doesn't win anything.
That's right.
Why would Arsenal give him the job?
Well, because...
If he's not some kind of miracle worker.
Well, because I think they will realise that he had such poor material to work with Liverpool when he got there.
Yeah.
He was not going to make an instant... See, the guy goes to Liverpool, he's not going to suddenly take on a world-class squad of players and turn them into champions.
Can't see it.
That won't happen.
No.
So how long is it going to take? 3 years? 4 years?
They've got to take
Why
at least
would Klopp
another
do that?
2.
I think Mr. Klopp thinks quite a lot of himself, and I suppose, his record of achievements in Germany entitle him to think some of that. But I would have thought that, this sabbatical, I'm very suspicious of people who go off on sabbaticals because that means you're a quitter,
Even though Rebecca Lowe, your good friend, who's
Yes.
now working over in America for NBC football, said that she'd actually taken a year out and, gone around the world and learned a bit about this, that and the other.
Oh, no, but she went working.
It was like a year, like a gap year type thing.
Yeah, but she went working. She went to work experience.
But it's similar to a sabbatical.
She wasn't backpacking around Ayers Rock or anything like some useless occupation like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what I'm saying is, surely if Klopp thinks a lot about himself, he should go to one of Europe's stellar clubs and manage them. For instance...
Well, like where?
Barcelona will be looking for a new manager very soon, will they not?
Because they're not playing terribly well.
Well, they're just rubbish, aren't they, at the
I
moment?
know rubbish is quite the right word, but they're certainly not blowing anybody's socks off.
Exactly.
They keep losing games. They didn't look particularly good against Roma in the Champions League. And Lionel Messi's out for 2 months.
Exactement.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Well,
so why would he come live? I mean, look...
Well, this is why I put out a tweet. I don't know if you saw it last night. It may have been a bit late in the day for you to be paying attention.
Remind me what it was.
I quite fancy the bet that I would make would be De Boer at 16-1.
Frank De Boer applied for the job last week, didn't he?
Is it Ronald De Boer?
Sorry?
Isn't it Ronald De Boer?
Ronald De Boer. Is it? Ronald or Frank?
I think it's Ronald.
Ronald, you sure?
I think so.
They're brothers, you know.
Yeah, I know they are, yeah.
You sure you got the right one?
I think so.
Let's just call him De Boer.
De Boer.
And who's he managing at the moment? Ajax.
He's managing over in Holland, isn't he?
Ajax, isn't it? Yeah. So De Boer of Ajax.
Yes.
I used to call him Ajax when I was a kid because I thought that they owned the company that produced that cleaning fluid. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think a lot of people made that mistake.
I'm sure they did, yeah. But anyway, the point of my story...
What is the point of your story?
Is that De Boer, around about Wednesday last week...
Yeah.
actually came out in a Dutch newspaper and said, I would like the Liverpool job.
That's right.
And I thought, well, blimey, old Klopp has been dropping a few hints he wants to go to the Premiership. He's not actually named the club he wants to go to.
Yeah.
So maybe that is it. I don't know. Do you think that there's been some communication between De Boer's people and the Liverpool board or something like that?
Well, they'd have to be looking at it,
and then decided, right, we've got a ready-made replacement. Brendan's off.
Well, I just wonder whether, this sort of certainty with which everybody's reporting that Klopp is going to get the job. All it takes me back to is a conversation I had, and I think we may have both had, with one of our German correspondents who said, no way does Klopp want to come to Liverpool this season.
Yeah. Well, did we have that conversation?
Well, it might have been one of the conversations
Who was
I had.
that with?
It was with one of our correspondents. It might have been
what's his name?
I can't remember what his name was.
You can't remember the people you talked to on this show?
Well, we talked to a lot. It might have been Ralph Honigstein, the guy who wrote Das Reboot. It might have been him.
Das Reboot,
Or, on the other hand, it might have been Ollie Knack.
Ollie Knack?
Might have been him.
He wasn't knackered when he was talking to you, was he?
It might have been him. But he was very sure that Klopp wasn't going to come anywhere near Liverpool.
Okay. How do you think
Brendan...
Brendan...
I think De Boer might be the kind of halfway house choice. Because, he's used to working with, not that much money and not that many great players.
I wonder how Brendan Rodgers feels about the fact that he's no longer the manager of this massive football club.
Well, he's certainly devastated,
it is a gigantic football club and a privilege. It is a privilege to manage this immense football club. And you have to be a big man to play for Liverpool at Anfield. What do you think about that?
I think
that's the way he's been thinking.
People did say that they expected you to come out with a few. Brendan Rodgers
didn't want to disappoint anybody.
But I mean, as I've said to you before, this is a guy who, up until the final, about 2 hours before he was fired, still had no idea it was going to happen.
No, he didn't. He couldn't have done, because that's what I mean. He went through the old rigmarole with the media after the game, talking like, oh, well, that's, I've got to reprieve myself there. I'm going to be okay for a bit. He actually said, I'll be around for quite a while yet, don't you worry.
It does, yeah.
Now, the guy who really...
Frank de Boer here. It's not Roland de Boer at all.
It's Frank.
Yeah, I told you it was Frank.
No, I told you it was Frank.
Don't start trying to change
I told you... Right, no. I'm going to have that played back.
No,
I'm not having you rubbish in my reputation.
I told you it was Frank de Boer.
I said it was Frank de Boer, and you said it was Roland.
Roland?
Sorry, Ronald de Boer.
Roland de Boer. Actually, maybe it is Roland de Boer.
No, it's not. It was Frank de Boer, and I said it was Frank de Boer.
I told you it was Frank de Boer.
No, you didn't. We're going to play that back.
He manages Eredivisie.
Who?
Eredivisie.
Eredivisie?
Yeah, in the Eredivisie.
Oh.
He's won 4...
so what are you going on about Ajax for, then?
Well, you were talking about Ajax.
I wasn't talking about Ajax at all. Listen, the man who should have got the sack and the man who must be sacked is Stuart Lancaster.
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, I mean, apparently, I've been hearing for the last 2 days on Talk Sport, loads of people, including Lewis Moody, including Lawrence Delalio, various other rugby aficionados, saying what a great job this guy's done at rebuilding English rugby, and how it's a big mistake to get rid of him, because, in fact, he's now probably ready to take England to the World Cup 4 years from now and win it.
Apparently, after 3 years of intense preparation, and he said, we're ready.
And more money spent on any rugby team than anybody's ever spent.
Absolutely. Yeah. 2 weeks before the World Cup, he suddenly changed all the tactics. Yeah. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, listen, I'm not sure we got this right now. I'm going to check. And that was after 3 years of putting into place his plan.
Yeah.
And apparently, his statement about, yes, we're ready...
Yeah.
Actually, all that meant was he'd run the players into the ground. Yeah. He didn't actually have a tactical plan.
No.
He just thought, if I get the players as fit as I can possibly get them, then I can tell the world we're ready because they can run around a lot.
Yeah.
That apparently was the plan.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, I mean, we're going to talk about that coming up. We were hoping to get Russell Hargreaves on, actually, to give him a bit of a shellacking,
Yeah,
because
Russ,
he was the one that said to you, did he not, when you
Stuart Lancaster's a great man, leave him alone. And I said he's not, he's a PE teacher.
He said the proof will be in the pudding after the World Cup. So
that's right.
He sneaked off to have a baby, so he's not available.
He sounds like a PE teacher, acts like a PE teacher, his body language is that of a PE teacher. Who on earth gave him the job to be the supremo of rugby in this country? I just cannot believe it. I can't believe they got conned into doing that. He was sort of like an excited schoolboy. Well, we're ready now. We're ready to go, and the boys are feeling great. And I can see many positives.
I wish he was that animated. I don't remember talking that fast. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Steve Nichols coming up next.
Frank de Boer applied for the job last week, didn't he?
Is it Ronald de Boer?
Sorry?
Isn't it Ronald de Boer?
Ronald de Boer. Is it? Ronald or Frank?
I think it's Ronald.
Ronald, you sure?
I think so.
They're brothers, you know.
Yeah, I know they are, yeah.
You sure you got the right one?
I think so.
Drive on Talk Sport, the UK's only sports-dedicated drive time with Sky Sports. The sharpest analysis on all the day's action.
To say I'm angry is an understatement.
Laser-guided comment and rapid reaction from a nation of sports fanatics.
I don't like listening to him, I'll turn off.
Drive home with Darren Gough and Adrian Durham, weekday afternoons from 4 on Talk Sport with Sky Sports. The home of the Barclays Premier League for the next 4 seasons.
We took the all-new Mitsubishi L200 Series 5 across the globe for 18 days and 4,267 miles. We conquered the Sahara Desert and the Atlas Mountains to show the world the most manoeuvrable, economic, efficient, safest and capable pickup we've ever made. The Mitsubishi L200 Series 5, showing the world how it's done. Search Mitsubishi L200 and test the best.
Asper's Super Casino Westfield is giving away £100,000 of prizes throughout October and November with a £5,000 cash prize every week. Use your free Aspire card. £100,000 in prizes and a £5,000 weekly cash prize. Open 24/7, free membership too. Asper's Casino Westfield Stratford. So that's why they call it Super. Terms apply. Details at asperstratford.co.uk. Over 18s, play responsibly, gambleaware.co.uk.
This is a customer announcement. Right now you can get £10 of petrol free at Tesco from The Sun. Start collecting your tokens today in The Sun newspaper and you can top up your tank at Tesco on them. £10 of free petrol from The Sun. Sounds like a vrooming marvellous offer to me. Get it?
Terms and conditions apply.
As the temperature begins to drop, there's still something to smile about at Wickes with our cosy autumn offers. Save up to 30% on all universal radiators, now from as little as $14.99. Get our GU10 LED light bulbs for just $1.99 each when you buy a pack of 20. And Knauf loft insulation rolls are now 2 for £30, mix and match. Wickes, let's do it right.
The BMW i3, it's not just an electric car. It's an electric car that drives like a BMW. Rentals from £299 per month. Discover more at bmw.co.uk/i3. £3,699 initial rental, 36-month hire agreement from BMW Financial Services, subject to status and availability for new vehicles ordered before 31st of December 2015 and registered by 31st of March 2016. UK only, guarantees may be required. Mileage and other conditions apply when you return the vehicle.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on this morning, of course. Brendan Rodgers getting sacked was the big news of the weekend. It almost overshadowed Jose Mourinho having such a terrible time and getting charged by the FA, despite the fact that they said they weren't going to charge him over the Dr. Eva scenario. They've now decided to charge him because he said that referees are frightened to give penalties to them and all that kind of thing. Crazy business. But 192 games later, Brendan Rodgers with a 53.64% winning record, which is not that bad, I don't think.
Say again.
53.64%.
What's
is
that?
His win record.
Who? Brendan Rodgers?
His win ratio, yeah.
That's pathetic.
You don't think that's any good?
That means
there's plenty of managers who have got
he's only won every other game.
Well, yeah, but there's plenty of managers with a worse record than that are still in the job.
I don't think it's terribly good.
Well, let's talk to Steve Nicol, who has been, I have to say, for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I said this earlier on the Sports Bar, for over a year probably, he's had his doubts about Brendan Rodgers. Steve, a very good morning to you.
Hey boys, how you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed.
Well,
I mean, indeed. I mean, it's a strange time for a sacking to happen.
Exciting times
I
over
suppose,
here.
but I mean, most Liverpool fans don't seem to be terribly upset that he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a strange time, to be honest. I think the fact that Klopp, who clearly is the favourite as far as the bookies are concerned, and certainly most Liverpool fans, including me, the fact that he is available right now, and the way that Liverpool were playing, the results they've had this, not just this season, but last season as well, I think the timing is pretty much perfect. Brendan definitely was given a chance. He said he asked for 3 years, and he got 3.5. He was backed by FSG, didn't spend the money wisely, and that's what happens when you don't produce.
Yeah, what about all these stories that are coming out saying that, he was only part of this committee that had 5 men on it, and it's not really that fair if he's the only one that's taken the fall for it?
Well, to be honest with you, if you're the manager of a football club and you don't have the final say on players, then I think that's your first mistake. So if indeed he was on a committee, then again, the performances are down to him, the players they sign are down to him. And the fact that, as you say, he's the one that will take the fall, that's even more reason to make sure that you're getting the final say. So, nothing that's happened you can't point a finger at anybody other than Brendan Rodgers.
That's true. Now, Steve, the crucial question for Liverpool fans is this. The owners, headed up by Mr. John W. Henry, have appointed 2 managers. When they got in, they got rid of Roy Hodgson and reappointed Kenny Dalglish, and then they dismissed Kenny Dalglish, or he stood down, and they appointed Brendan Rodgers. So the 3 managers that have worked under John W. Henry have not yet produced the goods. Why should any Liverpool fan have any confidence that the regime that's failed them badly so far is going to get it right this time?
Well, I think you're pushing it with Roy Hodgson. He was already there, so I'm not going with that one. I thought Kenny was a mistake. I thought they should have kept him on, but they didn't. They decided to go their own way with Brendan, and it hasn't worked. Listen, when you appoint anybody as a manager, you can't 100% say, well, this is going to be successful. And Klopp's going to fall into the same vein. The guy's CV suggests this is perfect for him. He took on a team who were former European champions in Dortmund. He ended up taking them to 2 league titles in the Bundesliga, and he took them to a Champions League final. So, as much as I'm saying nobody is 100% guaranteed, this guy's CV 100% fits what Liverpool need, and it fits what he's done in his past.
Yeah, except he's never worked in the Premier League before, so we don't know how he's going to adapt to the very, very different circumstances in the highly competitive world of English football. Because at the moment, the German league that he left, the Bundesliga, is a one-team league.
Yeah, but at least he won it though, didn't he?
Yeah,
they were the team. They were the team that knocked Bayern Munich off the perch.
Sure. Oh, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
So they weren't a one-man team that year?
No, they weren't. But the problem is
one-team league,
he eventually left the club because he ran out of steam. There was nothing else he could do, and they started slipping down the league.
Well, that's because Bayern Munich kept nicking all his good players.
Well, that's exactly right.
Well, listen, he was at Borussia for what, 9 years?
Yeah, 9 years. Yes, that's right.
So he's done a lot of things there. Maybe just the time was right to move from there and start again.
I'm very suspicious, Steve. A man who says, I think I'll take a sabbatical right in the middle of his career, that to me is somebody who's either run out of steam or he's lost the appetite for football or he's just a quitter.
I didn't hear him to complain when Guardiola said he wanted a sabbatical.
No. Well, I did.
He didn't do too bad when he came back.
I did. I thought he was a quitter as well. Guardiola realised...
Well, he's won the Bundesliga every year since he's been there.
Yeah, but Guardiola inherited a great Barcelona team and just kept it bubbling for 3 years and won everything. And then he inherited a great Bayern Munich team.
He created that
and he's just kept that bubbling. So all this, anybody who goes off on a sabbatical, Steve, is a loser who's decided...
I don't think Guardiola's got that on his CV. Loser.
Anybody who does it is a potential loser.
Porky's gone mad a bit early tonight.
It's a potential loser who, frankly, has given up.
Loser.
And you know what the problem is, Steve? We pay football managers far too much money because Brendan Rodgers has had the boot, but he's had the boot with a £5 million package. When Davy Moyes got the boot at Manchester United, boot plus £8 million package. I mean, I'm sorry, the whole world of football management now is just a gravy train of, managers.
So excited about?
Hang on, managers going to places, not doing very well, and jumping off the gravy train with a few million quid, and then jumping back on it again.
Yeah, have another Red Bull.
The people you're talking about who have jumped on this gravy train actually did something and were actually offered the job. They didn't. They weren't running people over in a car to get the job. They were asked to do the job. They were offered a certain amount of money. That is not their fault.
Why was Brendan Rodgers ever appointed in the first place? He had no track record. He was a young manager without much experience. He'd failed in a couple of jobs before he got to Anfield.
Because he was thought to be the epitome of a young British manager.
Well, they thought wrong.
Who had done much better at the clubs that he had been at before.
Well, they thought wrong.
Than he should have done.
They thought wrong.
He made Swansea perform better than you would have expected him to.
Well, you say that, but I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why Swansea picked up at the time, the backing from the owners, and Swansea doing very well under Gary, what's his name? Gary Monk.
Well, hold on a second. Yeah. If that's your argument, why did Gary Monk get the job? Because he had no experience whatsoever. But Swansea, you can't have it both ways.
No, Steve. Swansea's a smaller club than Liverpool. I bet you Gary Monk won't be offered the Liverpool job because the owners will say, well, hang on. The last time we appointed somebody, it was somebody who'd grown up at a smaller club in the Premier League, i.e. Swansea. We're not doing that again. They made a terrible mistake.
And that's, if you ask me, that's called experience that FSG didn't have before. Now they know that. And this is probably one of the reasons why they're going to go for the likes of Jurgen Klopp.
But what if they don't get Jurgen Klopp, first of all? And second of all, even if they do get Jurgen Klopp, that's a team, and we were saying this earlier, that hasn't really got many stars in it. It's going to be a long time before whoever comes in is going to be able to make it possible for Liverpool to finish much higher than about 7th or 8th anyway, isn't it?
Well, again, the answer to the first question is if Jurgen Klopp doesn't get it, there's not a whole host of recognised candidates who you would turn around and say this is ideal for them. That's a guarantee. What I would say is that Jurgen Klopp did exactly what you're asking at Borussia Dortmund. Yeah. He did that. He took over a team who had no stars. They had good players, but they had no stars. They bought wisely, something Brendan didn't do, which is why he's not there anymore. So let's be honest. FSG have shown that they'll back managers as far as finances are concerned. So now it's up to Mr. Klopp or whoever it is to make sure that he's the one in charge of who comes in and who comes out. And as I said, Klopp, that's absolutely the CV that he has, and that's absolutely the reason why Liverpool should have him as the manager.
Yeah, what about this one, Steve? What about this one, right? Jurgen Klopp comes to Liverpool.
Just the one you just told me about.
Yes, he does 2 years, and then guess what's going to happen in 2 years' time? Both the manager of Manchester United and maybe the manager of Arsenal are going to quit their jobs, OK? I mean, Louis van Gaal has already said that, and Arsene Wenger can't be that far away from quitting when he gets to 20 years in the Arsenal job. I say then Klopp might be in a position to jump ship to Arsenal or Manchester United, having used Liverpool as a springboard to get into the Premier League and find out what it's all about.
I'll tell you what, you don't go Santa Claus at Christmas and that, do you? I'll tell you, how cynical are you?
I am cynical.
You haven't even got the job yet, and you've got him jumping ship. You've never met him. You've never spent 2 minutes with him. You don't know what he's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody's a mercenary.
Yeah, well, he can only speak from his own experience, you see, Steve. That's the thing.
That's the
Steve. It's the sort of thing he would do.
Steve, I have a reputation as being smarter than the average bear, and I can see these sort of things.
Only in the bear pit.
I can see these things looming on the horizon. Believe me. Right. I've been around a bit.
Is that why you eat cinnamon?
Yeah, we must talk about that, actually. The cinnamon challenge. Extraordinary cinnamon challenge. Only Porky could go viral on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know too many bears that have ever tried that.
No, they're not that stupid.
No.
Now, let me ask you one final question, Steve.
Yeah.
What will the 3 years of Brendan Rodgers' managerial time at Liverpool be looked upon as by the historians? Will they look at him as it's similar to sort of Roy Hodgson? What will they say about him in the history books?
I think they'll say a man that spent a lot of money and got nothing for it.
That's quite damning, really.
That's what happened.
Yeah, it was a stuttering period in Liverpool's history, really. Went nowhere, got nowhere, didn't go backwards, didn't go forwards, just nothing happened, really. That was the problem. But anyway, look, Steve, I wish the club luck. They're a mighty club. They've won 5 European Cups. We need strong clubs in in this country, to pursue our ambitions in Europe. So, maybe it'll work out.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Steve, thank you very much, as ever. We'll catch up with you once they have appointed a new manager, whether it's Jurgen Klopp or somebody else. But they're saying they want to appoint a new manager by the next game on the 17th, aren't they?
That's right, yeah. I feel like a terrible traitor, by the way, saying that I hope it works out.
Why?
Because, I'm an Evertonian, aren't I? And
you mean? Are you being disingenuous?
No, I'm not being disingenuous. I mean, people have to understand that as a broadcaster, on a national radio station with millions of listeners, I have to be even-handed. That's all I'm being, even-handed.
Yeah, it's hard for you to be even-handed.
No, it's not. No. By the way, Everton should have won
like that.
Everton should have won the derby, shouldn't they?
Well, I'm not
Certainly
sure.
in the second half.
I'm not sure about that. I'll tell you who should have been sent off.
Easily the better team.
It's young Barkley. He should have been sent off.
No, he shouldn't.
Yeah,
No. Barkley's aggression should have been sent off. Barkley didn't start it. He merely... all he was trying to do was get the ball off him.
I know. But he raised his hands.
He
should have got a yellow card for that. So when he then got the second yellow card, he should have been off.
No.
Simple as that.
No.
And he wasn't the man of the match either. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. We'll talk more about the Cinnamon Challenge coming up next.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
We are the two mics. We've got loads more to do. We've got winners and losers coming up a little bit later on. We're going to talk about the Cinnamon Challenge, which went viral yesterday on Facebook as well, by the way.
Yeah, I know,
Some website, which is supposedly the new website for men, which is called something like joe.co.uk, right?
Okay.
Apparently has had something like 1.4 million hits on you doing the Cinnamon Challenge.
It's nicked my Cinnamon Challenge video, which I recorded myself, which is my copyright, of which I star.
Yes, indeed.
And has been a tremendous success, if not anywhere else, certainly in our live shows, the two mics.
It has.
On stage.
I wonder where they got the idea that they could just nick it from your YouTube channel.
Not do I, but we're going to have to get...
we have to get my learned friends
involved. That's right, because you can't go around stealing other people's property like that.
No.
But anyway, look, I'm glad that a lot of people have seen it. I've had a terrific feedback on it. But and it's not about the monetary value of what's been removed from us. It's
just the fact that you'd think they would have been decent enough if they were going to use it to say, well, by the way, this is Mike Parry. He does a live show with Mike Graham as the Two Mikes. Also, they're on Talk Sport. I mean, there's no reference as to where you are or where you've come from.
Exactly.
As if you've just fallen out of the sky.
Exactly, and it's...
so it's a bit of a bad show, really.
It is a bad show, and it's poor form.
1.5 million views, it's saying now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And where have they been watching
Well,
that?
they posted it on Facebook, right? So, but what they've also done, which is rather uncanny, and I think perhaps slightly underhand, is that rather than people watching it on your channel,
that's right,
which is your own YouTube channel,
that's right,
or watching
Porky
it on the Two Mikes TV,
Mike
which is our own
Parry TV.
Yeah, there you go. Or watching it on the Two Mikes TV, or watching it on the Two Mikes website.
Yes,
they've actually nicked it and put it on their own website.
Yeah,
so they're getting all the hits.
Yeah, well, and
for which they may well be generating revenue.
Yeah, well, that's not.
I know this might not be of any great interest to people listening to this, but
no,
it's not really on.
It's not really on, but we will sort that out.
We will.
Point is, well, thanks for drawing that to my attention. And if you've seen it, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you know anybody who works for Joe or whatever,
joe.co.uk,
just tell them that there might be my learned friends shooting up the road to see them. But anyway, there we go.
Yeah.
Now, that record, Billy Joel.
Uptown Girl.
Yes. Do you know why we played that?
Why?
Because there was a new survey's come out, right?
Yeah.
And what it was a survey put together to find out what is the secret for an ultimately happy song.
Oh, yeah.
And the happiest song...
That is a very happy song. It makes you smile, doesn't it?
That's right. But the happiest song ever written was Freddie Mercury's Don't Stop Me Now.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
When they say the happiest song ever written, what you mean the one that people voted... The one feel-good sort of song
of course
as well.
It is, yeah. And the second one was Dancing Queen, which is one of my all-time favourites. Yeah. Then Good Vibrations.
Yeah. Beach Boys. You didn't do very well on the Beach Boy quiz, I seem to remember.
You
didn't do very well on the Beach Boy
quiz. I did very well.
No, you got 3 out of 10.
And then Uptown Girl, number 4.
Okay.
But the reason we played Uptown Girl is Uptown Girl got the best of the decade for the 80s. Good Vibrations got best of the decade for the 60s.
Yeah.
Don't Stop Me Now, best of the decade for the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great, isn't it? This is the song that drove...
Do you remember one of the questions in the quiz was for you to get the words of the start of this song?
Right, yeah.
And which you failed miserably to do.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You did.
I'm not going through that again. But the point is, Brian Wilson wrote this and then went bonkers because he discovered it wasn't as good as Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's by the by.
Okay.
The 90s, so that's really about the time I stopped listening to sort of records really on the radio and all that. I got too busy in the world.
Right.
Let Me Entertain You, Robbie Williams.
Robbie Williams, it's not a bad song. It doesn't really cheer me up in the same way as those other songs.
And in the 00s, Dancing in the Moonlight.
The 00s?
Yeah.
Did anybody ever come up with a name for that?
The Noughties.
Yeah, the Noughties. You don't call them the 00s.
Well, the Noughties.
What decade are we in now, then?
Eh?
What decade are we in now? I don't know what year it is, but I mean, what do we call it?
Well, the 10s, I suppose.
Is it?
Well, that's what it is.
I've not heard it being referred to as that.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's or the teens, maybe the teens.
I don't know.
10s, teens.
Yeah.
Because next will be the 20s.
Yeah.
What I was going to say
20s.
was, I don't even know who Top Loader are. Dancing in the Moonlight.
Dancing in the Moonlight. You know that song.
No, I don't.
If you heard it, you'd hear it.
Well, how's it go?
Dancing in the moonlight.
Oh, yeah, I do know that one. Yeah. I barely recognise it from the way you tried to sing it, but I do remember it.
Well, you recognise it, though, so barely or otherwise.
And then since 2010, Happy by a guy called Pharrell Williams.
Yeah, Pharrell Williams, yeah.
Is he good?
Yeah.
Is
You'll know that one as well.
Hey?
That's the kind of daft punk
Anyway,
sound.
getting to the list of 10, we got down to Uptown Girl, Eye of the Tiger, which I thought was great.
Nah, I don't know about that.
And
that doesn't cheer me up.
Eye of the Tiger. Well, that was the theme music to Rocky, wasn't it?
Rocky 2.
Rocky 2, that's right, yeah. And then this great one I've told you about before, I'm a Believer, the Monkees.
Yeah.
And then I saw her face, da, 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 da. Now I'm in the Diva. Because the Diva was the local mental hospital in Chester.
Yeah, all right.
She used to sing that at the playground.
You've just done this so you can sing every one of these songs,
No.
Usual rules apply.
Number 8, Living on a Prayer, Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Now, my favourite John Bon Jovi record when we were in the States was Little Pink Houses.
That wasn't by Bon Jovi.
Who was that?
That was John Cougar Mellencamp.
Oh, yes, that's right. They were very similar. No, but they were very similar.
No,
Did he
weren't.
dance around in a field with a guitar?
Yeah.
In a cornfield?
Yeah, with the little pink houses
that's
in the background.
Right, yeah, I thought that was Bon Jovi. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And then...
Or John Mellencamp, as he's now known. Because for a while he was known as John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Then he was known as John Cougar. Now he's back to his John Mellencamp.
But you can easily confuse the two. They both got a first name called John, and they're both American singer-songwriters. So it's very easy to confuse those two.
Not true at all.
And they sing similar songs.
No, but John Bon Jovi is Jon.
Yeah,
John Cougar Mellencamp is
John. Don't
John.
split hairs. Number 9, I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor.
Yeah.
That is one of the great records of all time.
I suppose so. It's
really
overplayed,
is.
though, isn't it?
Well,
it's overplayed.
I suppose it is. And then number 10, I'm Walking on Sunshine.
That's a good one. That is a great summary kind of song.
But anyway, the reason they put all this
together...
Do
you want to hear a bit of Top Loader?
Oh, I'd like a bit of Top Loader,
see whether we know that one.
Yeah.
You know that one, right?
I do. That's very good.
I must say, it does give you well, it's going to be good, actually, for you, because normally you're very grumpy, and so that'll give you an uplifting kind of feeling, won't it?
That's good. Now then, the reason all this was put together was because a load of neuroscientists got together and analysed 126 uplifting tunes to find...
so they analysed them rather than asking people?
They analysed them.
Oh, okay.
They analysed them. And they discovered that the secret of the happiest song was a combination of the lyrics, the key in which it was played, and the tempo.
Right.
I thought tempo was just like a...
Well, no, because they're all up-tempo songs, aren't they?
Yeah, I
mean, you wouldn't say, for example, take, I don't know, a slow song like Blackbird by the Beatles.
Or Let It Be.
That was uplifting.
Yeah,
I mean,
Let It Be
gets a bit loud towards the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose
it's not a very fast song.
No, it's not.
What about Happy by the Rolling Stones?
Happy, 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 happy song. What? Wasn't that?
No.
What was it?
That was not the Rolling Stones.
Which
we'll see if they can find Happy for you.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
I don't really want to turn this into a sing-a-thon.
So anyway, Dr. Jacob Jolie.
Yeah.
That's interesting. A guy called
Dr. No relation to
Jacob...
Angelina.
No, but I mean, Dr. Jacob Jolie has done this research into happy songs.
Maybe it's pronounced Jolly.
Jolly, yeah. Dr. Jacob Jolie says a feel-good song is very personal. Music is intimately linked with memory and emotion.
Yeah.
And these associations strongly determine whether a song will put you in a good mood or not. However, there are some key criteria.
It's pretty obvious, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. Do you know Uptown Girl?
Yeah.
That was made in a garage on East 54th.
Uh-huh.
And I remember...
Wasn't it just shot on a film set?
No.
Are you sure it was a real garage?
Do you know why? I'll tell you.
Go on, were you there?
I wasn't there because it was done about a year before I got there in the 80s. But a cab driver once, when they still had English-speaking cab drivers in New York...
They still have English-speaking cab drivers.
Well, but the guy was a real toity-toid type cab driver.
Uh-huh.
He was taking me home one night and I lived on 77th, and for some unknown reason... He must have been working over from the west side or something. I must have been over there or whatever. And he said, "Hey, you see the garage?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's what I did, Uptown Girl." I said, "Really?"
So where was it? West somewhere?
It was East 54.
Oh, East 54.
Yeah. But then he said, and I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, how do I know? I'll tell you how I know. Some of the guys, they get the cars serviced over here." And he pointed to the other side of the street where there was another garage which specialised in servicing checker
yellow taxis,
yellow cabs, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Did you see it being made?" He said, "See it being made?" He said, "Got into a fight. One of my mates, he got into a fight." I said,
"So it was Marlon Brando driving the cab?"
No. He said, "One of my buddies got into a fight." And I said, "Why?" He said, "You remember the scene when Christy Brinkley comes up in the old Rolls Royce?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "My mate standing on a corner waves at her." He says, "Billy Joe goes mad and runs across the road, wants to take him on with a spanner." Yeah, he told me all of this.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds like he had as vivid an imagination as you.
Whatever.
Sounds absolute rubbish.
But I mean, that's so interesting. But do you know what the other thing is about Uptown Girl?
Go on.
It was one of the first great videos on MTV, wasn't it?
It was
really
great dance,
great. Fantastic. Yeah,
and she looks amazing, Christy Brinkley.
Oh, she looked utterly beautiful.
Didn't last, of course, did it?
No, they got divorced a few years later, and then something happened about her in a helicopter. She was in a helicopter that crashed in Aspen or something?
Not sure.
I think she was.
Maybe.
As it was, Billy Joel went on and married another 2 or 3 times, and in fact has just got married again.
Yes,
to a woman
he
about
has.
30 years younger than himself.
Well, he had a bit of a drug problem as well.
Well, I think he had a bit of a bladderation collision, if you see what I mean. You know what I mean?
It's just about time to hear a little bit of the Rolling Stones.
Okay,
Happy,
let's hear about that.
which I think would be my favourite happy song.
Excellent.
Here we go. You recognise it?
Sort of.
Yeah. Pretty sure it's on Exile on Main Street, your favourite album.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah, sounds all right. Not one of their best, though.
Oh, I like it. I like it very much. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Mr. Parry is now pointing at me. What is it that you'd like to say?
Something extraordinary happened to me yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Down on the coast at my penthouse on the south coast there.
Yeah.
And
overlooking the Solent.
Well, actually overlooks Portsmouth Harbour, which goes out into the Solent. But yes, you're quite right. Extraordinarily, a neighbour asked me to try and...
It's not the policeman.
No, it wasn't a policeman. No, this is an old fella.
Oh, okay.
I mean, really old.
Really old?
Yeah, knackered.
Really?
Yeah, could hardly bend over, you know what I mean? Because
is he on your floor?
I don't know, actually. I think he comes from another block within my development. You see what I mean? I don't know him very well.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know him at all.
Right.
So, anyway, as I'm walking out yesterday, to start...
So you're on the street level?
Well, down on what we'd call the car park in front of the development. You see what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, and the gates are over there.
Where the old Jag is parked?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I'm walking...
to keep the space?
Yeah, that's right. I'm walking towards the gates, and this guy said, "Oh, hello." I said, "Yeah, hello. How are you?"
Why, you're not going to make fun of the guy.
No, I'm not making fun of him.
So not.
And I said, "How's things?" He said, "Oh, not too good, really." I said, "Oh, why's that then?" And he's got this knackered old car,
right. Well, yours is a pretty old car as well.
It's 2 years.
No, I'm talking about the old Jag.
Yeah. Well, no, I move that when I take the Merc down.
I know you do.
Yeah, but anyway, so I said, "Oh, I've got to go and..." What's the problem?
Very unkind.
Yeah, I'm going to the daughter's for Sunday lunch. And I said, "Oh, that's good, yeah." He said, "But I've got a puncture."
Oh.
I said, "Oh," sort of moving away as fast as I possibly could.
You don't have to help the guy out.
But he was old. So he said, would you mind helping me? And I said, to do what?
Yeah. Ever friendly.
I got my phone out immediately, thinking I'll call the AA or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he said, to change my tyre. And I said, well, you probably haven't got a spare tyre, you see, mate. You don't have you ever changed it before? I said, oh, I can't remember. And I said, well, you won't have a tyre.
Sure, this guy should be driving.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely right. So I said, he said,
so he didn't immediately swing into man of the people, saviour type, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, this guy was so on top of things. He said, I can't actually find the spare.
Yes, that's always a problem.
I said, well, that'd be under the boots. There's a board in the boot usually. Yeah. So I helped him find it. We found it.
Right. What sort of car was it then?
It's like it's sort of Allegro or something.
Really?
No, they've been gone for years, haven't they? It wasn't that old. It was. I think it was some sort of Vauxhall.
Okay.
But about 5 or 6 years old. Okay.
That old?
Yeah, I think so.
That's not very old.
No, I think so. But the amazing thing is, I thought, well, like every other car these days, it'll have one of those spare rim light things.
Yeah.
So we'll have to call the AA or something and get a new wheel.
Or like my old Citroen that didn't actually have a spare wheel at all.
Well, I mean,
it just had that stuff that you foam that you put into the tyre.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but anyway, to my horror, there was a perfectly good spare wheel there with a tyre.
Right.
I said, oh, there is one, Oh, he couldn't lift it out.
Right.
He was so knackered, and weak. So, yeah. So
it's so awful the way you're describing it.
Well, anyway, so I got the tyre out, right?
But then you actually lifted the tyre out.
Yeah, I lifted the tyre out.
Did he have a jack?
Well, this is the problem, you see. Yeah. I said, look, what you have to do is now you've got to find your jack, mate. You stick it in the side here, there'll be some sort of a socket for it. And then you just sort of,
pump it up.
Yank it up, that's all, I said, look, I'd love to. I said, but I'm sorry, I've got a lunch appointment myself. I've got to go. And anyway, I've just got out of the shower.
Yeah.
I said, it's a filthy old job, and yeah.
You're so hopeless, aren't you?
Yeah.
What a terrible way to treat somebody like that.
So,
one of your own neighbours.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So he said, oh, I don't know what to do. And luckily, some other bloke then had just driven in and parked his car.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, hello, how are you? And he came over, and I said, look, this old chap here is having a bit of a problem with his tyre. I said, I'd love to help him, but I'm afraid I've got an urgent appointment. Perhaps you can... And so off I went. I got out quick.
So you just disappeared?
I disappeared,
That's shocking.
Yeah. Well, what else could I do?
How is that an extraordinary thing? I thought you were going to tell me you saved the guy.
No.
You got him going again. Well, able to maybe take him to a nearby garage to get it fixed.
How often do you see people changing tyres these days?
Not very often.
Exactly, hardly ever at all.
Not very often.
Whereas in the old days, if you went on a trip, literally from
I mean, funnily enough, you say that. In the last sort of over the weekend, I think I saw 2 or 3 people fixing tyres.
Right, really?
Yeah.
I see. I wouldn't do it on the roadside. It's dangerous. You get mown down.
Well, if you do it on a hard shoulder, you're okay.
Oh, you're not, mate. Believe me. A friend of my sisters, or a friend of my brother-in-law's anyway, stopped on... he had a Jaguar, funnily enough, and he was a big shot at Mars, the confectionery company. Oh, yeah. He stopped on the hard shoulder when he got a flat, and a lorry ran to the back of him and killed him very sadly. It was tragic. But the police who attended the scene told my brother-in-law later, he said, you won't believe how often this happens. He says, don't ask us why. People drift into sleep or they doze off or something. Cars veer into
they do say the hard shoulder is very... when I say hard shoulder, I kind of mean like lay-bys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sure, and all that kind of stuff.
But you do see it from time to time.
Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, when I got back...
That's a shocking thing.
No, I got back a few hours later, the old guy...
I mean, it wouldn't have made any difference to you if you'd taken half an hour longer to get to your appointment, would it?
Yeah, but I got my hands filthy and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
It's called doing a good deed for the day.
Well...
You feel good about it.
I helped him, get the tyre out. I told him where the jack probably was and all that kind of stuff. And then I put him onto this other guy who's... I think he had a bigger obligation to help him than me.
Why?
Well, I'm only a part-time resident. The other guy looked to me like he lived there.
No, it looks like you're looking for excuses.
So he should have
looks like you're
done
absolutely
it.
looking for
but
excuses.
Anyway, what we need to talk about really is
I
why...
need to read some tweets out.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea.
We've got loads coming in and we haven't read too many out.
I like that.
Now, this one's from Peter, who says, Tim Sherwood's a classic example of an impact manager who uses a siege mentality which only works for so long. That's what you were saying about Jose. Steve says, Jose and Chelsea's second marriage honeymoon is over. These things rarely work and he's sulking over some perceived slight. And here's one from Russ in Lichfield who says, morning, Mike. I just wanted to say, I watched Porky's cinnamon challenge this morning. Right. I've never cried so much with laughter. Really? He nearly had a heart attack, but did he know that cinnamon is actually good for reducing blood pressure, so this might actually help him? Ask him if he fancies trying the new Marmite challenge. It involves squirting an entire squeeze bottle of Marmite into your mouth, then swallowing it. As he's highly trained in taking pain, I'm sure he could do this.
I wouldn't fancy that one.
I'm not a fan of Marmite.
Right, now then, one from JPK.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, let's hope, this is directed to me, your winners and losers surpassed last week's offal. Yeah. That's rather offensive.
They weren't very good, were they?
Which ensured a certain defeat whilst you were still on air. Another one which says, here we go. I was with Russ over Lancaster. That's Russ of the...
Russ Hargreaves.
Of the New Fatherhood,
not Russ from Lichfield.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was with Russ over Lancaster. But because of his squad selection, team selections... Lancaster now has to go. And one here from Optimistic Tiger, who says, what could be better? Listening to the two mics in real time, sat by a pool in Orlando, enjoying some bladderation with a picture of half dozen cans of Budweiser. Yeah. That's very nice.
Now, this is from Mad Max, who says, Porky's anti-Liverpool agenda coming out there. 53% is second best percentage of Liverpool managers in the Premier League. What's Roberto Martinez's win percentage compared to Rodgers? I bet it's not as good as Rodgers. Yeah, as for Porky's impression, he sounds Scottish.
He sounded Scottish. And Gaelic. That's what Irish and Scottish people are.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. This is from Josh. He says, brilliant show, guys. Excited to hear more on this weekend's events. Mourinho is just as deluded as Rodgers. What a shock indeed it was.
Yeah. Well, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for him.
Yeah.
And here's one from Sean. He says, people keep saying Brendan Rodgers spent a fortune. His net spend was $26 million per season. You get more than that for finishing bottom. Yeah, well, net spend is all very well, but that was only because of two very high-profile sales, really, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which was Luis Suarez and the young man who went off, Raheem Sterling, went off to Manchester City. But apart from those two, he would have spent an awful lot more money.
And how successful is Raheem Sterling being at Manchester City?
Well, I don't know, really. I mean, you've said that he'll only score 5 goals in the Premier League, no more.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't seem... He's not prolific, is he?
And I think I heard Rodney Marsh talking earlier in the previous show saying it looks like he's going to be benched from now on because he hasn't made the sufficient impact and there's too many good players at Manchester City.
And he hasn't scored as many goals maybe as they would have expected him to.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, very difficult.
So there we are. Now, what was I going to say to you? I was going to say to you...
You said we had to talk about something.
Yes, and I think it's about Sunderland because, you see, the headlines that we're looking at from tomorrow morning's papers are saying that so far the Sunderland job has been rejected by David Moyes, by Sam Allardyce and by Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
And that nobody wants to go to Sunderland. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, Sam Allardyce, I would have thought, is quite keen to get back into Premier League football. Some people are saying, and Andy Goldstein is one of them, saying that basically they don't think he wants to move that far north. But I can't imagine that for that kind of money you would care where you live, would you?
Well, I think you would. I think if you've got a track record behind you, like Sam Allardyce and like Davy Moyes, and Sean Dyche is recognised as a great up-and-coming manager.
Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche, yeah. What I really think is that Sunderland is a cul-de-sac. Now, I don't want to be rude to anybody in Sunderland, right? I think the Sunderland people up there are great, but my See, my image of that part of the world, Mike, is not Sunderland, it's Durham.
Yeah.
Right? And that's because I have been to Sunderland a few times, but whenever I have, I've stayed in Durham.
Right.
And all I'm trying to say is, I don't know what the town of Sunderland looks like, do you?
No, not really. I remember passing it. We went up to Newcastle to do the show.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, isn't it amazing how close it is, and yet these places are considered to be separate entities? Really?
Yes, they are. But Durham is like, the cultural centre of that part
well,
of
that's where the cathedral is, and that's
exactly.
where the
university is, and that
yeah.
kind of stuff,
Right.
And,
well, I mean, you worked up there, didn't you?
Leave old Durham town.
You worked up there. So
tell you what,
one
of the shows I might review in Porky Vision
this
week
time, by the way,
is Inspector George Gently, because that's based in Durham.
Yeah, but that's an old show, isn't it?
And he gets shot inside Durham Cathedral.
I tell you what,
anyway,
I saw the most amazing film last night.
What was it?
About
what was it called?
It was called Machete.
Machete. It doesn't sound good. Sounds like somebody might be getting sliced up.
Well, it was awful. I was actually quite shocked. I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport with the two mics.
We took the all-new Mitsubishi L200 Series 5 across the globe for 18 days and 4,267 miles. We conquered the Sahara Desert and the Atlas Mountains to show the world the most manoeuvrable, economic, efficient, safest and capable pickup we've ever made. The Mitsubishi L200 Series 5, showing the world how it's done. Search Mitsubishi L200 and test the best.
An incredible new you starts with Nicorette Quick Mist Rapid Relief Mouth Spray. It gets to work on your cravings fast, making you 150% more likely to quit for good compared to willpower alone. Nicorette Quick Mist. Do something incredible. Stop Smoking Aid. Contains nicotine. Requires willpower. Always read the label.
As the temperature begins to drop, there's still something to smile about at Wickes with our cosy autumn offers. Save up to 30% on all universal radiators, now from as little as $14.99. Get our GU10 LED light bulbs for just $1.99 each when you buy a pack of 20. And Knauf loft insulation rolls are now 2 for £30, mix and match. Wickes. Let's do it right.
Sicario is one of the best reviewed films of the year.
You want to start a war?
This is the future, Kate.
It's a masterclass in mounting tension, says The Times. The Sun calls the experience intense, compelling, and utterly nerve-shredding. The Guardian calls it a white-knuckle action thriller. And GQ calls Sicario the best film of the year so far. It's 5 stars from Total Film, Sky Movies, and Empire. Starring Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, and Josh Brolin.
Don't move! No.
Sicario, in cinemas Thursday. Certificate 15.
The BMW i3. It's not just an electric car. It's an electric car that drives like a BMW. Rentals from £299 per month. Discover more at bmw.co.uk/i3. £3,699 initial rental. 36-month hire agreement from BMW Financial Services. Subject to status and availability for new vehicles ordered before 31st of December 2015 and registered by 31st of March 2016. UK only. Guarantees may be required. Mileage and other conditions apply when you return the vehicle.
Whether they're first past the post at Cheltenham or in off the post at the Berlin ground. Whether they're scrumming down at Twickenham or throwing arrows at the O2. Whether they're teeing off at Augusta or stopping for tea at Old Trafford, get closer to the action with all the latest form and odds from Betway's betting expert every weekend on the Weekend Sports Breakfast. Saturday and Sunday mornings from 7 on Talk Sport with Betway. Get closer to the action with Betway.
Adrian Durham and Darren Goff.
Do you not want to win the league, you lot?
This afternoon from 4.
What went wrong Saturday?
Well, they're better than us.
Talks.
Well, that's very harsh. I would have helped if I'd had more time, but I didn't. You know,
okay.
I had to get out
Well,
and
you
see
were probably
people.
cutting into your luncheon time, right, and drinking time.
Well, no, not at all. I mean, please do remember it was the day of Everton versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
And
early kickoff,
and the game after that, United and Arsenal.
Were you nervous? You sounded like on Twitter you were a bit nervous.
Well, I was a bit, but I did think Everton would get the result, and in the end we were unlucky. But anyway, that's another story.
Here's one from Chase. He's rather unkind about me here, actually.
Oh, yes.
He says, old MG advising Porky to help out the chap with the tyre, but he can't even feed his dog or get it health insurance. Absolute rubbish. What do you mean don't feed my dog? What sort of world do you live in, Chase?
Do you know about the new rules for walking dogs?
What new rules?
Well, you have to have them on a lead at all times.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
Now, how do you know this?
Well, up to a point you do.
Right, now...
It depends where you're walking them.
Right, well, I tell you something, you better be careful. And I tell you why you better be careful, because I've come across a case in which a woman has been fined £50 on the spot for just letting her dog off the lead.
Yeah, I think you do have to be careful, because you have to be careful that your dog doesn't go around sort of jumping on people or paying attention to people who don't wish to be paid attention to.
Yeah, but if you just simply take your dog off the lead in parks and things now, these wardens cycle up to you. God knows who pays for these blinking wardens, because I can't possibly see how they can pay for themselves.
I've never seen a dog warden in all the 18, nearly 2 years I've been walking this dog. I've never seen a dog warden.
Yeah, listen to this. This is a lady called Lynette Tweed.
Oh, yeah. Lynette Tweed, that name sounds familiar.
Really? Oh,
doesn't it?
I don't know.
She's not a famous person.
She's not a famous person. She's a mother and grandmother of 6. Surprised to be told she was supposed to have a pet on a lead.
Yeah.
It was a normal place where she's normally walked her dogs for years, but couldn't see a sign anywhere.
Was it a park or something?
It was a park.
Yeah. Well, certainly inside parks you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, OK. But she was still given a £50 fine.
Yeah.
She complained to the warden who issued it, who refused to tear up the ticket because she said there were no signs and didn't know that the rules had changed.
Right.
The local authority dismissed her appeal, so she actually officially appealed, and put up a sign at the spot 3 days later.
Oh, there we are.
So that's a bit sneaky.
I think the rules, and we're going to talk about plastic bags as well in a little while, because the rules for plastic bags are so ludicrous, right? That I've got to raise it with you and point out a few things.
Yes.
But I mean, the problem with walking a dog in a public place, and which a public park is obviously you have to adhere to those rules. But if you walk a dog in a field, for example, which is not necessarily the purview of the local authority, that rule may not exist. But you do have to be careful, because some people, even if they're walking their own dog, don't actually like other dogs mixing with their dogs. I mean, I've had that problem before.
Right.
I take the dog to the woods sometimes, and there's a lot of little trails and things like that.
Yes.
And some people with little dogs don't like bigger dogs coming and kind of jumping around on their dog.
I'm afraid that's the dog world, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if you've got a dog and you take it to a place where there are other dogs, you've just got to get used to it.
I totally agree. This dog, by the way, sounds a right old knackered beast.
Oh, yeah.
It was an 11-year-old Schnauzer Sasha.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, no, it's called Sasha, who's a Schnauzer.
Schnauzer?
Yeah, you know what a Schnauzer is?
I think so.
I've got a picture of one here, look, see?
Yeah.
See that?
Do you mean a Schnauzer?
Schnauzer, is it? Schnauzer, yeah.
It's a Schnauzer.
But anyway, this happened in Bedford, right?
Yeah.
So it's Bedfordshire County Council, and she walked into a park.
She's a grandmother.
She's a grandmother, yeah.
That's surprising, isn't it?
I said grandmother of 6.
Yeah, but she doesn't look like a grandmother.
Oh, I see. You think she's attractive, do you?
Well, I think she's very good looking for a grandmother.
Can you never, ever get away from the fact that when you look at a woman, you see her as a potential sex object?
I don't see her as a sex object.
Yes, you do.
I'm just saying she looks very well for a grandmother.
I told you she was a mother and grandmother of 6, right? And you didn't say anything. Now I show you a picture of them from a report I gathered off my information
I'm just saying she's very good looking for a grandmother.
So you are commenting on how she looks then?
Well, I think she looks very well. What's wrong with that?
So you now see her as a potential sex object?
Not at all, no.
Yes,
absolutely
you do.
not, no.
Yes,
that's
you do.
Precisely
that's
not
what's on your mind.
No, that's not what's on my mind.
Yes, you did. You looked at this woman and thought Rogerisation would not be out of the question.
To be honest, the first thing I thought of was she looks a bit like Joanna Lumley.
She does look a bit like Joan. A very attractive woman, actually.
There you go.
And I thought
I was thinking more in your terms, really, because you're out of that age now where if you were to go out with a woman similar age to you, more than likely she'd be a grandmother.
Well, I didn't introduce the sexism into this story.
No sexism for me.
I didn't start saying, oh, by the way, she's a very attractive woman. I look at a human being as a human being.
Is that right?
Not a potential sex object, not somebody who's
sex victim,
who's a member of the opposite sex and very attractive or anything like that. I don't know. Anyway, this lady, rather attractive lady.
Then. 50 quid she's had to pay it.
But she says the main park entrance is where the signs are. She goes in through like a gap in the hedge or something, where there are no signs, and then to the cemetery next door.
She can't use that as a defence, though.
Well,
the fact that she enters the place by an unorthodox entrance.
4 children and 6 grandchildren this woman's got.
Yeah, well, good luck to her.
She's a part-time manager at a retirement complex. So she's still working.
Yeah.
So
the dog didn't actually do anything.
And she's in Turvey in Bedfordshire. I've never been to Turvey or heard of it, actually.
No, the dog didn't... Topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy, that's right.
So the dog didn't actually do anything. It didn't sort of go up and do anything to somebody.
It's just because she let it off the lead.
Yeah, see, that's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very difficult. But no, I mean, I'm very careful about where I let him off the lead, because you are right. You do have to be concerned. And particularly if you're near kids or anything like that. You know, if I've got him off the lead, even in a place where I think it's actually fine for him to roam around.
Is that one of the reasons why you walk your dogs then?
What?
The potential of seeing attractive women walking their dogs.
No, of course not.
No, I think it is.
No, I walk the dog because he needs walking.
I've suspected this for some time.
He's a very big dog and he needs a lot of exercise.
I've suspected this for some time.
And in fact, I took him on a great cliff walk on Saturday.
No, it didn't fall off a cliff then.
No, of course not.
No,
I've actually got a fence along it.
Yeah,
beautiful view. Beautiful
Where is this cliff?
It's just sort of northwest of northeast, I suppose you'd say, of Hastings. Very pleasant. And then on Sunday, took him for a very long walk around the fields around the house. It was lovely, really nice. Beautiful weekend.
Did you take your children with you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I always do.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you think I sit in some kind of, dark place drinking from the morning till night.
Oh, you do?
But I have many responsibilities. I'll tell you what, my responsibilities now have actually increased. Do you know why?
Why?
Because my son, who's now at secondary school, right,
Yeah.
gets so much homework that I actually have to help him with his homework. So I have
You
to
help him?
I have to be
What sort of homework?
I have to be compos mentis.
What subjects do you do?
This week we do French, we do a bit of history.
Oh, French,
bit of
ooh la
religion.
la. What did you say to your son? Fermez la porte.
Fermez la bouche, I think is what you're thinking.
Fermez la bouche. What's a bouche?
Shut your mouth.
No, fermez la porte. You shut the door.
Yeah, why would I say that to him?
Well, that's a standard French phrase.
No, if you're not talking about doors, it's not.
Fermez la vendière. That's close the window.
Fenêtre, isn't it?
Fenêtre, that's it, yeah. Fermez la fenêtre. Yeah.
Well, he had to do basically what's in his sack, right?
Yeah.
So he had to draw pictures of things that were in his sack.
In his sack? What sack?
His bag.
Oh, you mean his school satchel?
Le sac.
The satchel?
Yeah. What do you think I was talking about?
The sack.
That's what it's called, right? You'll be getting Le Sac if you carry on like this. It's like Brendan Rodgers.
That's right, yeah. Brendan Rodgers got Le Sac, all right, yeah.
Le Sac. Anyway, so he then had to draw the object and then write what it was both in French and English, right? Label it up. In history, he had to do a thing about the Normans and the Vikings.
Right.
And maths, he gets maths every night. I mean, he just gets loads and loads of homework.
I could have done all that for him.
Well, you could have done, but
Did he draw
you're not 11.
A
tasse de thé? No, we didn't do any of that. It was just what was in his bag.
Oh, okay.
He wouldn't have a cup of tea in his bag, would he?
Not really, I suppose. No, but
I mean,
you know what I mean.
Well,
what's a book?
Huh?
What's a book called?
Livre, isn't it?
Livre?
Livre.
You know why we're called journalists, don't you?
Who?
Us.
Why?
Journal.
Oh, I thought you said why we're called journalists.
Yeah.
Les journalistes.
No, le journal.
No, journal is a newspaper.
That's what I mean. That's why we're called journalists.
Oh, you mean that's why?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's where it comes from.
What
it's
about journal?
Eh?
Well, what about journal? That's an English word.
Yeah, but it's adapted from the French word.
Well,
you see.
no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, it's also a bit of journeying in it as well. That's le journal.
No, I don't think so. I think
it is.
I think
right.
Now, here's a couple of more tweets to read out to you because we're running out of time here.
Okay.
Dave says, Eredivisie is the name of the Dutch league, you pair of clowns.
Of course
we knew that.
Yeah.
Well, we know that.
Yeah, and you said, he's in charge of Eredivisie. And I said, no, he's not in charge of Ajax.
Yeah.
First of all, he got his name wrong. He thought his name was Roland.
No, you'd have got his name wrong. Here's what Ben says.
Yeah.
Roland de Boer, right up there with Roland McDonald, Rolando.
Yeah, that's right.
And Rolandinho.
That's right.
Harry, you plank.
No, I'm not the plank. You're the plank. He said Roland. I said Frank de Boer. I knew exactly who I was talking about.
Frank de Boeuf.
Right. There's one
I haven't got any more time now.
Says, brilliant. It's the water gargling that gets me. Well done, Mike. This is again about the old cinnamon challenge. That video which has been stolen off me.
Well, only you could have something like that nicked from you without having any proper sort of, legal requirements in place.
I didn't even know.
You should have had some kind of legal, declassification on it to say, remember they used to do it at the News of the World. Our lawyers are watching.
Yeah,
don't pinch this.
I could have done. Look, as long as people enjoy, I don't really mind. Actually,
no, it's not about the money. It's just more about the fact if somebody else is making money off something that you have created.
Well, that's true.
Then they're not entitled to do that.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
That's the only problem. Anyway, now we're going to talk Stephen Caldwell coming up. You were asking about Sam Allardyce and Sunderland, and that's what we're going to talk about next, right here on Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Recognise that one? That's another happy song. Happy. Pharrell Williams.
Yeah, Pharrell, yeah.
Now, I've been asked for an update on the NFL, which is a game on tonight. Detroit against Seattle. It looks like Detroit 3, Seattle 7 at the moment, and it's only in the second quarter, I should say. So we'll keep you updated with all of that news as we go.
Sounds...
it was a big NFL game in London, and in fact, just to add to another sort of coaching scenario, the Miami Dolphins fired their coach after their game on Sunday at Wembley. Yeah,
not good.
You got to keep up with these things.
Yes, okay, but I mean the levels of interest which our audience have, and I would say.
Well, David's asked me for an update, so I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's excellent. That provides a great service. We tried to be all things to all people. Now,
it's not very easy. We've got Stephen Caldwell on the phone.
Stephen?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, do you remember the last time we had Stephen on the phone?
Stephen?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah. Stephen, he doesn't remember, does he?
Of course I do. Stephen, great to have you back on the show. Thank you very much indeed for picking up that phone and calling us.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed.
He's going to do it again, aren't you?
What?
Well, it's Stephen Caldwell we've got here.
Yes, I know that. And I'm saying thank you very much indeed
Well,
for being on the show.
Us, we've called him.
Sorry?
He hasn't called us, we've called him.
Well, I just wanted the audience to think that you were so excited by what you hear and you picked up the phone, you dialed the number and you thought, I've got to be on with the boys. That's the way it goes.
Speak to the guys, yeah.
Well,
I do enjoy speaking to
that
guys.
is true, yeah. We enjoy speaking to you. Now, a bit of a calamitous weekend in the Premier League, depending on which team you support, I suppose. But, 2 more managers bite the dust and, a few more who might bite the dust between now and Christmas. But up in Sunderland, one of your old stomping grounds, Stephen, it looks like they're talking about Sam Allardyce going there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of excited about that, actually. I do like Sam. I think he guarantees a certain type of grit in a squad and commitment to winning matches, and I know he gets a lot of stick for not being as pretty as people like, but at the end of the day, it's about winning football matches, and Sunderland certainly need that right now.
They certainly do. Is there any problem with, because nobody's mentioned it so far, Steve, that Sam Allardyce was in fact Newcastle's manager? I mean, albeit briefly, during the Mike Ashley revolution.
Albeit?
Sorry? Albeit, yeah.
Albeit?
Yeah.
Do you mean albeit?
Steve?
Sorry, I'll just translate for him.
It is a bit of a surprise with him being Newcastle manager, but I know that he's always had links to Sunderland as well. There was a time, actually, when I was at the club, there were strong rumours that Sam was going to leave Bolton and come in managers.
Yes.
So, I know he's always had links, and I think he's always had his supporters inside the Stadium of Light, or the Academy of Light, where the offices are, and I do think he would be great, but it's not been mentioned too much that he has been Newcastle manager, but I'm sure that that'll soon be forgotten about if he gets there and starts winning some football matches.
Right. OK, now, Steve, sorry, Mike, don't
worry, you carry on.
Steve, I don't wish to depress anybody, including the Sunderland fans, but if I'm looking at the back page of a national newspaper coming out tomorrow, and it says this: Moyes says no to Sunderland, so does Allardyce and Dyche. No, Sean Dyche from Burnley. Now, what they're trying to make out here, in a roundabout sort of way, Steve, is to make out that Sunderland has now become so unfashionable as a Premier League club and a location in which people want to live that it's going to be very, very hard to recruit a manager of any standing. Is that a bit unfair, or is that, unfortunately, the way of the world when multi-millionaire footballers can pick and choose the big cities, like maybe London and Manchester and Madrid?
Yeah, well, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the North East. I played for 2 teams there, and I was there for 10 years in my early adult life, so I love it, and I do think it's a fantastic place to live.
Yeah, I do.
To play or manage a team, so I don't agree with that. I do think it's a huge job. It'll take a certain type of guy to take that challenge on and keep them in the league. They're struggling a little bit just now. They need some energy, and they probably need 3 or 4 signings at least in January. So it's going to be tough, and I think that's what's putting guys off more than the area where it is. But at the end of the day, Sunderland's a massive football club.
It is.
These guys that we're talking about are top managers, and I do feel that they'll all be good in a certain sense for Sunderland. I think Dick Advocaat wasn't quite as committed to it as he had to be. A fantastic manager who's had an illustrious career, but I think when the going got really tough, he realised that it was time for him to retire, and he didn't really want to be there. So credit to him for getting out before it was sort of too late and giving somebody else a chance.
That's one of the things he says, isn't it? He says that he wanted to give somebody a chance to help to turn things around. But I mean, he had to convince Mrs. Advocaat, didn't he? Because he was going to leave at the end of last season anyway, having rescued them from relegation. And he apparently wanted to leave last week before this past weekend. And so. I mean, you do wonder, with the amount of money being floated around inside the Premier League, if some managers or some people in the game have just worked out that Sunderland aren't going to survive this one, and they're not going to get that money next year.
Yeah, I think it's far too early to say that. Like I said, they're in a great situation, and it's going to be a daunting task, and it's going to take a lot of effort and commitment, and again, some signings when the opportunity comes. But I don't think they're doomed yet. I think that I know the new teams come up and they always have a real good start, and they're fresh and they're ready. And I think when the rigours and the strains of the Premier League come along November, December, January time, I feel that Bournemouth especially will be down there. I think Norwich will struggle. And I think there's going to be enough teams round about Sunderland that if they can get in a little bit of run and win a few games, that their experience should come through. And again, with a good top manager rejigging them a little bit, I think they'll be safe in the end.
Now, Steve, did you get a sense of shock when you heard about Brendan Rodgers leaving Liverpool? I don't know if you saw it. I'm sure you probably did. You've got access to as much Sky as we have. But did you see the way that Thierry Henry was so shocked when he heard it? His right hand shot onto Jamie Redknapp's knee.
Jamie Carragher.
Jamie Carragher's knee, yeah. Yeah,
Cara and Thierry looked really close at that moment. I think there was something special going on the other day that he touched Cara's leg.
I thought Carragher's expression on his face when he looked towards the camera was like one of those looks you get from a guy at a bar when he's like, is this guy really touching my knee?
Yeah.
What am I going to do about it? It's very funny.
I've only caught it on Twitter, and I've not actually seen TV footage yet.
It's dramatic.
My mobile device.
It's dramatic.
Yeah. It's very French, isn't it?
Oh, it's very French, but it's sometimes as a joke, you sometimes grab somebody's knee and squeeze it to get an involuntary reaction out of their leg.
No.
It was just like that.
I've never done that. When did you do that?
I used to do that to women all the time.
To women?
Yes, it used to really excite them.
I wouldn't do that nowadays if I were you. You'd get down for assault.
Yeah, you could do actually. Yeah, but the thing is, Steve, of course, what that started, and you may be able to comment on this, immediately was the prospect that Jamie Carragher might now leave the TV studio and go and help rescue Liverpool. Is that a possibility?
I think that is an absolute certainty. As an assistant coach, I don't think he's going to be head, but I think that if I was Jurgen Klopp or Carlo Ancelotti or all these guys that are getting mentioned for Liverpool, he would be my first call.
What about Steven Gerrard? Do you think he might come back in a similar kind of role?
I actually said, a friend of mine was just here from Manchester. I just took him back to the airport tonight, and I actually said to him, what about Gerrard going back?
Yeah.
He felt that he would see out his time in LA, and I think probably, he's got something going in LA, and he'll probably enjoy the next couple of years. But I think that's a possibility. But Cara, for me, is a real good fit. He knows his football. He loves his coaching. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge of players, and obviously he completely understands the Premier League. So if I was a foreign coach, Ancelotti maybe a little bit less than Klopp, but if I was Jurgen Klopp, he would be my first call, and I'd have him in alongside me to teach me the history and the ins and outs of the football club, and also the specialities of the Premier League. I'm sure he's very, very adept at both, but I think that having somebody that knows the club so well would be a great asset.
OK. Steve, as a former professional, how do you guys feel about people like Jamie Carragher sort of in the media, sitting there in studios, pontificating on everything that's going on, and obviously with great experience. But then I'm thinking about something like Gareth Southgate. I think I'll go back to management. Goes off to Middlesbrough, fails completely. So he's back in the TV studio, then decides, I think I'll go back to management, goes and manages England's under-21 team, doesn't do, a huge job for them. And then back in the studio. I mean, it seems to me that...
Well, he's still employed by England, though, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is. But his role's been downgraded,
He has.
But what I'm saying is, it seems to me like media work has become a bit of a lifeboat for a lot of ex-professionals who are constantly...
Well, as it is for us in many ways.
Constantly juggling... Yeah, but we're not ex-professional footballers. Constantly juggling their career decision on being a coach or being a pundit.
Yeah, I think the big thing about that is that I've done a bit of pundit stuff myself. I work for TSN, which is our major supplier of English Premier League and Champions League games in Canada, and it's a very difficult job. So I think that when the guys become available again, it's TV companies that are right on the phone saying, please come back and work for us, because they're proven, they know they can do it, and they don't have to wait the 6 months and flooding somebody in and getting them used to the ins and outs of TV with the earpiece and the camera and looking into the right camera at the right time. It's difficult work. So I think that's something to do with it. But I've never got a problem with a guy who's been there, done it, like a Gordon Strachan, who's or even Graham Souness, guys like that who have coached and been managers, then given a strong opinion on things. I just think sometimes when, and I include myself in this, when you're commenting on games and players and what managers should be doing, I think that it's sometimes a little bit hypocritical when you haven't actually stood there on the touchline yourself and felt what it's like to have that pressure on you and to try and make that decision while millions and millions of people want to tell you the right thing to do. So, again, for me, I think that you have to try yourself and give it a go, and if it's not for you, you move back to TV, then fair enough.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
move.
for instance, Steve, I think Gary Neville is such a good pundit, I'd give him a job at half of the Premier League clubs which, need a better manager, because his analysis, to me, proves he understands the game so well.
Yeah, but being great as a pundit doesn't mean you're a great manager.
Well,
either,
Gary Neville is a coach anyway. He's a coach for England, and he has a major role.
Manage a Premier League club, though.
Well, what do you think, Steve?
Well, I think that I totally agree with you. If you have no tactics and you can talk about football and games and what went wrong and what happened, then I do think you can be a good coach. But being a good manager is a different thing. It's about reacting to a situation immediately, and not everybody can do that.
Sure.
And I'm not judging Gary Neville. I do think he'd be a tremendous manager, but it's totally different. Standing there on the touchline, a team changes their formation, a guy gets subbed off, you have to react immediately, and that along with the man management side and getting the best out of 25 different personalities is what makes you a fantastic manager, in my opinion.
And that's a very rare thing that very few people have. Let me ask you one final question, Stephen. What do you fancy for... I'm thinking for Sunderland that Nigel Pearson's quite a sort of dark horse candidate.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I like Nigel Pearson. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think he let himself down in the media a couple of times, but I do think he's a good young coach, and I think that he would be a sort of dark horse, maybe an outside bet.
Yeah.
For me, Sam Allardyce is a man. He guarantees you staying up, in my opinion, and you keep him for a couple of years, and then you maybe move forward as he wants to get out of the game.
Interesting stuff, Stephen. As ever, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much indeed.
I think Nigel Pearson is going to be my tip for this job, because
Who?
I've got
Nigel
Pearson.
Nigel
Pearson. Yeah, it'd be great to have him back in the Premier League as well, wouldn't it?
Do you not think
getting people round the throat and all that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, but do you not think that after the sort of eccentricities and clownish behaviour during the Pablo Di Canio era, that they'd
Paolo
Di
Canio,
yeah. Do you not think they'll
Pablo Di Canio?
Don't split hairs. Do you not think they'll be a bit reluctant now to take a chance on another maverick wild card type guy, loose cannon?
They may not have the choice, because if everybody keeps turning them down, as you suggested they are, then he may be the only one left.
Well, you never know.
You never know. Now, we've got loads of tweets to read out. I promised to read some out coming up next.
Indeed.
Tweet us at the Two Mikes, at Mike Parry, at IROMG. This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
Does it make you feel happy, that one? Not so much for me, that.
I think that's okay. I mean, I'm not a Robbie Williams fan at all.
Yeah.
I think a load of his music is very, very middle of the road. I think it's unexciting. I think it's pedestrian.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's, a sparkling talent.
Really?
Well, no.
You'd be very disappointed to hear that.
Well, he may be. I mean, he's got a huge fortune. I think he's made like 50, 60 million quid or something like that. Good luck to him.
Played some massive gigs as well.
I totally agree.
Nebworth, done Murrayfield Stadium,
I totally agree
Wembley
with you,
Stadium.
But compare him to, the great individual artists of the last 30 and 40 years, and he is not fit to wipe Michael Jackson's boots, is he?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
No, he's not. And he's not fit to be compared to...
Very few people are comparable to Michael Jackson.
He's not fit to be compared to Frank Sinatra, although I saw him one night in a live TV show on a Saturday night, quite a few years back, I have to say.
Who, Frank Sinatra?
No, Robbie Williams, singing My Way and dedicating it to his mum, you know, like this is one of the greatest solo performances ever that have ever been seen. And it was just average.
Average.
I do think he's just an average singer, Robbie Williams. What are you laughing at?
Well, I'm just laughing because your put-downs are so sort of bloodless.
My what?
Your put-downs.
Well, no, I'm just telling you how I feel about it.
Given that you called Emily Pankhurst a deadbeat a couple of weeks ago.
No, I didn't. I don't know who put that up.
It's not that surprising.
I didn't know who put that up.
Yes, you did.
I don't know who put that
now,
up.
listen, I've got loads of texts and tweets here. You've got to let me read some of them out.
Right, come on then.
Magoo says this. Porky ditches an old man to rush off and rob the locals of all the meat at the meat raffle. #heartless plank.
Well, yeah, could have been that, I
Joseph
suppose.
says Sunderland on a par with Newcastle, doomed. Roy says a schnauzer, classic. Does he ever pronounce anything ever properly? King School Chester has a lot to answer for.
Oh, yeah. How is it pronounced properly then?
Schnauzer, I think he said. Good God. And California Alex says Porky only thinks about women as potential sex partners if he sees a wedding ring. #cheating rogue.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Shut the door,
yes.
Says Neil, that famous French expression. I love the linguistic insight from Mike Parry on the Two two mics.
Yes, well, I do have linguistic insight. Listen, we've got a load of very complimentary tweets coming in here.
Oh, yeah?
Some of them about the old cinnamon challenge, which many of you have seen, that's great, but some of them about our show, which honestly, I have to say, we're terribly grateful
for. Well, don't read out too many complimentary
Well, I don't want to, because
it's a bit self-serving.
It's self-serving, and we're bigging ourselves up, but I want to say,
I prefer to read out the abusive ones, to be honest.
Just things like this, hi guys, keep up the great work, best show on radio and all. It's very nice to send.
So you don't want to read those out?
No,
do
but I do. But I do very much appreciate them, and then somebody.
You do.
How long?
What do you mean you very much appreciate them?
You what?
Well, they just sent to you then.
What?
Well, they just sent
to you.
sent
to us. To us.
Well, when you said you very much appreciate
Did I? Well, I meant
we.
Well,
you meant we, didn't you?
Well, I can't speak for you, can I? You
speak for me when it suits you.
You speak for yourself.
You speak for me when it suits you.
Now then, these chaps at joe.co.uk.
Yes.
How long before joe.co.uk get hold of this video? Which video? Let me have a look.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Oh, I see. It's another one on my TV channel.
Oh, yeah. Is that you smoking all the cigarettes?
Well, I was attempting to
smoke 20 cigarettes at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. It was somebody's party trick where what you do is you take the top off the cigarette
packet. Doesn't look very wise for someone in your delicate condition.
No, that's right. And then you put them in your mouth and you set fire to them. It is a bit silly.
It is very silly.
But anyway, there we go.
How about this one from Nick in Plymouth, who says the happiest song he likes is Don't Worry About a Thing by Bob Marley.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll play that one later on. You a fan of Bob Marley?
I'm a huge admirer of Bob Marley because he created a whole culture, didn't he? He created reggae. No. He did.
Well, he didn't create reggae.
Well, it was reggae.
He was the man who was supposedly, I suppose, credited with commercialising reggae.
I'm saying he created reggae.
He didn't create it. There's always been reggae, but he
was
the
founder of reggae
the most successful of those people.
You know who founder of reggae was? Haile Selassie.
Was it?
Yeah. He was the ruler of Ethiopia.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
Right? Do you know that?
Yeah, I do.
And he created reggae. How about that? It's not amazing.
Well, he certainly created the whole Rasta kind of scenario, didn't he?
That's right. Now, Bob Marley, because I've been to his place,
and
where did he come from? Barbados.
Eh?
Is it Barbados he came from?
No, Jamaica.
Jamaica, that's right. I've been there, yeah. And
have you been to Barbados or Jamaica or both?
I've been to both.
Have you?
Yeah.
Kingston,
Jamaica.
Downtown
right,
Kingston.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
quite a dangerous place in their parts, that.
Yeah. And
when did you go to Jamaica, then?
I was in the Caribbean. So I went to Jamaica.
You were in the Caribbean, so you just thought you'd go to Jamaica?
No.
Was that a freebie?
It was a facility trip, I was there with people. Now,
with people?
Now, Bridgetown is Barbados, right?
That is, yeah.
And they're huge Marley fans as well.
I'm sure they are.
But I went to some sort of like Bob Marley museum type place.
Oh, yeah.
And they...
In Bridgetown?
I think it was in Bridgetown, yeah. I'm sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was. That's why I got confused between the two.
Yeah.
And it's built like a shack. On top of a cliff near a beach, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things they said was why he was so great a man was not just because of all the fantastic reggae songs he wrote and all that, but because he squired so many children by so many different women.
Yeah.
Which apparently... Sired.
Squired.
Well, same thing, isn't it?
Well, not really, no.
It is, yeah.
Squired means accompanied.
And apparently within the Rastafarian lifestyle... That is perfectly good. That's acceptable. Physical love is a good thing.
Yeah.
And we should all be at it and doing it and all that kind of stuff. And
physical love? What, you mean sex?
I'd say Rogerisation is part of the culture of the Rastafarian thing. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Always looked after his children, loved them, provided for them, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But was a mega...
Well, he was quite a political visionary as well.
Mega Rogeriser, and that has to be a good thing. Now then, what I want to talk to you about
Let me read you this out, since you were doing all that self-aggrandisement about us, right? Lee in Wolves is not so impressed. He says, I'm ashamed to notice that this sports station that has been featuring such minor sports as the NFL and UFC has failed to mention that we have a world speedway champion who's only the third Brit in history to win the title twice.
Yeah, well, that's
Shame
incredible.
on you.
No, that's incredible.
Do you know who it is?
I
don't.
Is he He's British, is he?
Well, I just said that.
Okay, I tell
the
you,
third Brit in history.
I tell you who would know. Our mate Nigel
Pearson.
The
other Nigel Pearson.
The other Nigel Pearson.
Not the one who's likely to be the new manager of Sunderland.
No, the one who does the Sky commentary on Speedway.
He's a big Speedway man.
He is a big Speedway man, yeah. And
well, we mentioned it now.
What?
So
eventually, yeah. Funny you talk about Nigel Pearson. We just got a tweet here from Max saying Nigel will be talking about the other Nigel Pearson, will be the perfect manager for Sunderland. Players there need a bit of stick. So I think he's going to give him a bit of stick.
I mean, that may well be, because a lot of people have said basically the problem with Sunderland is they haven't got enough decent players and they don't really care that much, and so they're all getting paid very handsomely.
Okay.
And none of them have really got the fight to sort of keep themselves up.
Oh, right, is that okay?
That's what some people are saying.
Is that it? Right. Now, listen, a bit of bad news for you and I, because we've been planning in the breaks how to spend the dosh we're going to make on the cinnamon video going viral, right? Yeah. And we were talking about going up the West End, a few bottles of champagne, all that.
Oh, yeah.
Now then, VHP Records say, hi guys, you have given YouTube permission to share your video with anyone, and anyone can embed it. There is no legal option for you, you plank. Well, that's a bit hard, isn't it?
Well, they haven't embedded it. They've just taken it, right, and they've just put it on their website. I'm sure there will be some recourse one way or another.
Okay.
So, I mean, VHP may well be right, but we shall investigate anyway. John, who's a Manchester City fan, says, Mike, I hope you read this. I was at the Etihad on Saturday against Newcastle. Sterling didn't have a bad first half. Get off his back. He's taking time to settle in. That's all he will get there. And he says, please read this out. I sent it in by text and it was blank.
Who's had time to settle in?
Sterling.
Sterling?
Yeah.
Well,
Raheem Sterling.
Well, hasn't had,
he said he's not playing well.
Well, he's not. He has had time to settle in. He's not making the mark that a £50 million player normally would be expected to do. Did you see De Bruyne's goal, by the way?
Yes.
What a fantastic goal.
Tremendous.
Because the angle from which he scored that and the spin he put on it to put it exactly where he wanted it was terrific.
And the way that he sort of manoeuvred himself into the position to be able to convert it.
Oh, don't you hope this expression that the pundits use now, he opened up his body?
Yeah, I don't like that. No.
That means turn right.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I don't like it.
And also, people have started to call him De Bruyne as opposed to De Bruyne.
De Bruyne.
So what's your preferred pronunciation? Since you are the master of pronunciation of foreign names.
De Bruyne's a rune, so get it doon.
Hey, by the way, did you watch the Wayne Rooney documentary?
I saw the first bit of it, but then I had important work to do for tonight's show.
So you haven't seen it?
I've skyboxed it, so I'll see it.
Will it be part of Porky Vision this week?
It could be. Could well be.
Okay. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mites. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Derek in Pencoed has written in from South Wales. Liverpool fan of 44 years, he says. He says, Mike and Porky, I'm disappointed that Rodgers has gone, but in my opinion, a new manager doesn't guarantee a change in our results.
No, it doesn't.
He's philosophical about that.
Certainly not this season.
Right.
What can they do to change it this season?
Well,
you've got to go with the players he's got.
Well, exactly. He can't buy anybody. That's why I'm not sure Klopp's going to come. Lee in South Wales says this, every fan likes to see young players break through into the first team. Rodgers did this. I worry a foreign manager would not be so accommodating.
Well, you say accommodating, you don't know. Talking about accommodating, by the way, have you yet shopped in a supermarket where they're charging you 5p per bag now?
Funny you should say that, because it comes into effect today, Tuesday, doesn't it?
No, it came into effect yesterday.
No, I'm not sure. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was in Morrison's and I was charged for the bag.
You may well be right, because I'll tell you my experience of the weekend.
Yes.
I went to my, not local butcher's, but there's a butcher's not far from me where I like to go.
Good butchers?
Very good butchers indeed.
Yeah.
Got some fantastic lamb chops, actually, which I had on Saturday night.
Yeah, I saw you putting them on the
and I said to the sort of a family butcher, right? So, the guy who works there, I think his wife and her sister sort of do, around the stuff.
Yeah, chop up the meat.
They do all sorts of different things, right? And they're very nice. And I said to the woman sitting by the till, I said, are you charging, by the way, for plastic bags? Now, because this was Saturday. And she said, oh, yes. And I said, well, do you know that there's an exemption if you're selling meat? And there's an exemption if you're selling fish.
And there's an exemption if there's not 230 people working in your business.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And she looked at me very confusedly and sort of said, well, I didn't know that. And I said, the whole thing is a shambles. I said, because, I don't really mind paying for a plastic bag. I don't really care whether I bring my own bag. It doesn't really matter. But I think the point is that, you don't have to actually charge 5p if you're running a butcher shop, or even if you're selling meat in a supermarket. If you go to the supermarket counter,
get fresh
meat.
just
with some meat, you're allowed to have a free plastic bag.
That's right, because they don't want you to reuse that bag, because if you do and put cooked food into it, you get salmonella.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, but the point is, it's very confusing.
It is very confusing.
So I then went back to the car and got a bag out of it and said, well, thanks very much, I'll just put it in my own bag.
But do you know what they're doing now? Right, now, tell you what's interesting here. Some bag manufacturers are going to go bust because the shops will not order as many plastic bags.
Right.
but others will thrive if they make these bag-for-life things,
well,
right?
See, they've already done it in Scotland and Wales, right? Where, as far as I understand it, and I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't made these exemptions. They've basically just said, look, every bag is 5p, which is much more sensible. I don't understand why in England they've had to make exemptions. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And the other thing I don't understand is it's all the money's going to, quote, good causes. Yeah. That is far too loose an expression, good causes.
I understand, because I looked this up at the weekend, about 85 pence of the £5.
Yeah.
85...
0.85p.
Of a pence, I suppose, goes to VAT, doesn't it?
Does it? I don't know.
It does, yeah. But the rest, according to the government, basically, it's recommended that they give it to charity. They don't have to.
No, and not only that, these, quotes, local good causes and all that, this is all rubbish. I thought the whole idea was that we were going to charge for plastic bags to stop strangling swans and stop... well, that's where they end up. They end up in ponds where swans
Well, it's for a variety
strangled.
of reasons, isn't it?
It's for a variety of all sorts of reasons, but they definitely harm wildlife, OK?
Yeah. They're also
But
still...
I've now found no money's going towards wildlife and conservancy people at all, which is rubbish.
Well, it's not good, is it?
No.
I mean, I don't have any great faith in many of these big companies actually giving much of it away at all. They'll just use it to bolster their bottom line, won't
they? They probably will.
But I must tell you that I didn't realise... I went to... There's a local Tesco's where I go as well, which is one of those kind of Tesco
Express,
where there's a petrol station.
Yes, I know.
And I went in there and got a couple of things at the weekend twice, and both times I took my own bag. So in that sense, it might be
You took your own bag?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from?
Because I always have a bag in the car. I've got loads of those bags for life.
What, you miserable individual?
Why?
You carry around your own shopping bag?
Well, there's a bag in the back of the car.
That. What kind of a person are you?
Well, why wouldn't you carry a bag in the car?
That's the action of an old woman aged about 80.
Why, so you don't carry a bag for life?
I got my own bag, dear. Don't charge me 5p, will you?
Well, it's not about that. It's
the
about...
action of an 80-year-old woman,
I know you're very, very sort of
middle-aged man,
dismissive of old people, which is quite surprising considering how proximate you are to being old.
Excuse me.
But why don't you have a bag for life?
Mother. She's a wonderful woman.
Why don't you have a bag for life?
Well, I don't know what a bag for life is. Where do you carry a bag for life around?
In your case, you'd only need a bag for about 5 years,
right?
Wouldn't you?
No.
It's not so much a bag for life you're looking for, really, is it?
That's a very cruel joke.
I don't think it's cruel.
Can I just tell you, if I'm going walking along the North Downs, right, I usually wear shorts.
Do you?
Trainers.
Well, not in the winter, surely.
Yes, I do, yes, because you work up the bottom.
How are those trainers you bought from Thingy
Not
going?
Not good.
You stopped wearing them now?
I can't, they hurt my feet. I've given them to the charity shop, actually. Funny enough, I gave one pair away to the charity shop on Saturday.
Okay.
Which charity was it? It was British Heart Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was going to say
is...
shoes
that are apparently not the right size.
They said 9.5, and that's half a size bigger.
So somebody else is now going to feel the pain.
Half size big, because my feet are 9, but I normally get 9.5, so I can put an insole in them, which I get from Boots, which is orthodontic.
Right.
Like those sort of things that old Ronnie Arani
Yeah, well, you get Ronnie Arani's
Yeah, well, exactly. Get
shoes.
a couple of free ones off him and stick them in my shoe, right?
Are you sure it's orthodontic, you mean?
I said that.
Yeah, but isn't that to do with teeth?
I think it is, actually, yeah. What did I mean?
Hey?
Did I mean odontic?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, it's something to it's ortho something, and you stick them in your shoes, and it helps the instep in your foot not to collapse.
Yeah,
because you get a collapsed instep, then you go bandy-legged.
Well, you get flat feet, do you?
Yeah, flat feet. That's right. Now, so I normally buy a size 9 UK, which is size 10 America, right?
Yeah, right.
Size something else in Europe.
Yeah, 42 or something.
Yeah, that's right. And then bung the old insole in, perfect fit.
Yeah.
The problem is, these that I bought, and I won't mention the name of the store just in case people are put off.
Is it orthopaedic, you're thinking?
No. It's ortho something.
Orthopaedic shoe.
It's not orthopaedic. Honestly, it's not. It's anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, normally, by putting the in... What are you laughing at? When you put the insole in, that takes away the other half, and so it's a perfect fit, but not on this occasion.
Yeah.
But anyway, I bought another pair at the weekend, and they're brilliant. So
they work okay?
Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, you were presumably going to say something about when you walk on the Downs.
Oh, yes.
I mean, there's pictures of you. Funnily enough, people were posting pictures at the weekend of you leaning on old Steve Sherwood's car coming out of Spurs. Remember?
Yes, I know.
And many of them noticed you carrying in a Sainsbury's plastic bag.
Yes.
What was in that?
The match programme. If you look carefully, you can tell.
Why were you carrying a Sainsbury's plastic bag around?
Well,
you say that I'm bizarre. Hang on, you're saying I'm bizarre for having a shopping bag in the back of my car, which is not at all bizarre because I go shopping quite often with the kids and have the car and everything else.
Yes.
And so of course I'd have a couple of bags for life. Why would you be going to a Spurs game with a Sainsbury's bag in your pocket?
I've no idea. I can't remember.
I'm not surprised you can't
I can't remember why we had that bag, because you were with me on that occasion, because you took the picture. But what I was going to say was, A, people didn't realise it was Tim Sherwood in the Range Rover, right? And B, one particularly, unpleasant individual thought that I'd gone to Spurs to watch their game on Sunday.
Oh, he thought it was a live picture.
He thought it was a live picture.
Yeah.
He thought that
it was from a couple of seasons ago,
our very good friend at Spurs, old John Sims, had invited me along, and I was going there to enjoy, mass hospitality rather than making the journey up to Anfield.
Yeah, shocking allegation.
In fact, due to family responsibilities, I was on the south coast all of Saturday and Sunday and didn't go anywhere near Spurs or Goodison. So there we are.
Exactly right.
So I'm walking on the North Downs, right? And then I've got to do a bit of shopping at the end of it when I get back home on the train or something like that. Do you think I'm going to be carrying a bag for life around me? Where would I put it?
I'm not suggesting you do that.
It's so big, you can't put it in your pocket like a plastic bag.
But if you go shopping in the car, which many people do, of course you would keep a bag.
I very rarely do that.
But why wouldn't you keep a bag in the car?
I very rarely go shopping in the car.
Well, that's your idea.
Why would I take the car out to go shopping?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you must live within walking distance of a supermarket, which I don't.
I do, yes.
Well, I don't.
In fact, I live within walking distance of 3 or 4 supermarkets, to be honest.
Well, good for you.
Yes. Well,
so you're going to continue to pay the 5p charge then?
Well, I don't know. I mean, for instance...
what you could do as an experiment, right, is every time you go there, you put some, fresh meat or fresh fish in your bag and see whether they let you off without being charged 5p.
You couldn't be bothered. Do you know what I have worked out commercially what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that if somebody shops at Morrison's and they get a Morrison's carry bag for which they paid for 5p, they're going to say, well, I paid 5p for it, I'm going to keep it. But the next time they're out, they go to...
another supermarket?
Asda. They go to Asda, right?
Right.
Which is accessible to me as well.
Yeah.
So they go to Asda and they buy their packet of tea and packet of biscuits and all that kind of stuff, enough just to fill one bag.
Yeah.
And then the girl on the till says, do you want to pay 5p for a bag? No, thank you.
Yeah.
And they bring out their Morrison's bag and they put their Asda goods in it.
Yeah.
So that's going to backfire because commercially it means you're supporting an opposition retailer.
Yeah. But I do that all the time.
Do you?
I quite often, because the best bags for life are actually ones you get from a Lidl, which are only, I think they're cheaper as well. They're about 50p or 25p or something like that.
Yeah, but they're very thin and cheap.
No, they're not. No, in fact, I got loads of them when I was moving house because they're actually quite good for putting things in and carrying them.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And I would take great pride in going into a different supermarket with one of their carrier bags.
Why?
Well, because it's it's sticking 2 fingers up to them.
Oh, really? So do you have to be aggressive about this?
Well, I'm not being aggressive about it.
Rather unpleasant.
It's not unpleasant. I'm just saying, it just goes to show you that if they're going to try and charge you money for a bag, I've got my own bag, and not only have I got my own bag, but I've got somebody else's advertising on it.
I really don't understand this.
No, well, you wouldn't, would you?
Don't understand
Shopping's
your
not your
there,
strong
honestly,
point.
I really don't.
Now, so Russell says, so Bob Marley was a serial Rogerizer.
No, he was. Yeah,
he was indeed.
And by the way, everybody knew that, and he was quite proud of it.
Yeah, well,
that's part of his culture.
Not really news, then, is it?
No.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two
Winners
mics.
and losers coming up.
It is soon, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I hope you remember to bring them
Winners
this
and
week.
losers.
You remember to bring them this week.
Certainly have.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be an edition of Winners and Losers coming up very, very shortly, of course. A couple of tweets on this bag front, OK? Blobfish says this. Tesco have been giving away free bags for life all week, leading up to the 5p charge.
Have they?
So that must have been all last week, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Dredd says, as the 5p for a plastic bag, 6p for a bag for life, which will carry the same amount as 2 plastic bags. That's from Dom in Grantham. And here's one from Matt says, how is this whole 5p a bag thing going to work for home deliveries? Well, that's an interesting one as well.
Yes.
Because if it's cooked food, I don't think you are exempt from the 5p, but you might be exempt on the grounds that it's a small operation, right? Isn't that the other exemption?
Does Ocado, for instance, classify itself as a separate business to
Ocado have actually been in touch with me, and they've said we will be charging 5p for any bag that we deliver your stuff in. However, what they have said, which is good, because I've got millions of these plastic bags at home, because I've never really thrown them out, right? Is they will take anybody's plastic bag and refund you 5p. So I think I'm actually going to make some money here. Because say if I've got 100 bags, right, 5p each.
Yes.
How much does that mean? It's £5,
£5,
isn't it?
yeah.
So I could give them, well, next time I get delivery, I'll say, look, I've got 100 bags here. So you owe me. You'll have to refund me £5.
But they don't have to be their bags.
No, they'll take anyone's.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. So
I think it's a very good move.
So are you saying that actually a new profession in this country could be like...
you know how we used to see...
the bagman in New York used to collect the tins.
With the tins,
5 cents a tin.
Yeah.
And they used to collect 100 tins and get $5.
You might get a load of people...
a cheap bottle of whiskey.
You might get a load of people, sort of down and outs, as you call them.
Yes.
Looking for plastic bags all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
it could be. Well, how many plastic bags do you think you've got in your house?
At the moment?
Yeah.
200.
200?
Yeah.
So that's a tenner.
Yeah, but you wouldn't go cash them in, would you?
Why not?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't. That's
Why wouldn't
ridiculous. What I have one of these things on the wall in the kitchen that you stuff plastic bags into, and it's
what,
got
a cupboard.
No, you idiot! And it's got a.
I've got one of those too.
It's got an elastic neck at both ends.
What?
It's got an elastic neck at both ends.
What are you talking about? Like a pouch?
No, it's a well-known thing in the kitchen.
What's it called?
Well, I don't know, but it's
a well-known thing in the kitchen.
You stuff plastic bags in it.
Well, what's it called?
Well, I don't know what it's called, but it's a kitchen device, and you hang it on a loop, and then you stuff plastic bags in it until it gets full. What's your problem? Hey?
So you've got this ridiculous-looking sack hanging from your...
Well, sort of thing, I have, yeah.
Have you got one in both places? I bet you have.
No,
I bet
haven't.
You bought two of them.
No, I haven't.
Are you sure?
No, I keep them...
That's the only thing you haven't duplicated.
No, that's right. On the coast, I keep them under the sink.
Under the sink?
Yes, that's right.
And how many have you got there, then?
Maybe 50.
50? So you've got 250 plastic bags?
Yes,
200 in this sock?
Yes,
and
that's right.
50.
That's what it is. It's a sock. It's a bag sock.
A bag sock?
Yeah, well done. That's exactly what it is.
That's ridiculous.
No, it's not.
That's the worst.
Every kitchen's got one. Every kitchen's
I haven't got one.
By the way, do you ever get sort of kitchen envy when you see television programmes of people
I'll tell you what. I mean,
yeah.
I've been fortunate enough in my life to have some very good kitchens. Right. I had a great one when I lived in this flat in Glasgow. Right. Which was very, very modern. Just moved into. Just been done. Just been finished, and it was like one of those walk-through sort of galley kitchens.
Yes, I know.
Right next to the living room and the dining room area. And I've got a very nice kitchen down in Sussex, actually.
Right. Okay, that's great.
So I haven't really got any kitchen envy at the moment.
You see, a lot of these. Now I'm thinking about Dr. Foster, which is on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And a lot of these things, including, like, what's the other recent ones we've been watching? What's the other great
there's so many cooking
drama?
Shows on now.
Well, never mind.
What about Downton Abbey?
Well, Downton Abbey's a period one, but I'm talking about modern kitchens, right?
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Foster, for instance, she is a GP.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the GPs are just taking a mick out of the health service, aren't they? Do you know what? They're piling up their pension pots, so that by the time they're 55, they've got pension pots of over £1 million.
Is that right?
And they've done their required number of years for the training.
A lot of people
and they just retire.
A lot of people would have those kind of pension pots, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, but I mean, the GPs have had such a good deal over so many years. Anyway, I'm not knocking them. I like doctors, and they're great. Please don't
you
get me
should
wrong.
do. They saved your life.
Well, they did indeed, yeah. So Dr. Foster's a GP, and her husband runs this kind of her cheating husband, I have to say.
Yeah.
Runs this kind of property development business. Yeah. And is developing a new
well, you're not going to use the whole
centre.
Porky Vision sort of giveaway here, eh?
No, I'm talking about kitchens. Oh. But the central meeting place in their home is the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's bigger than Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's got the standard thing in the middle, with stools against it.
It's called an island, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Has it got sort of pots hanging down from the middle?
All that kind of thing. Yeah. 2 sinks, you know.
But you haven't got a place big enough to have a kitchen that big, have you?
No, I haven't. But I mean, you do get kitchen envy about how smart they all look.
Well, maybe you should just get a bigger house.
No, I prefer to have 2 or 3 small places rather than one big one.
But they've all got pokey kitchens, though. That's not much use to you.
Yeah,
but you don't want a big kitchen anyway.
You don't use kitchen
cook,
much. No. My kitchen in the old penthouse in Stockbroker Belt is big enough to have a table with a high chair and all that kind of stuff.
A high chair?
Yeah. Well, you know,
what have you got a high chair for?
No, not a high chair. A stool. A stool. That's what I meant. A stool.
Fantastic.
And that's fine. But the one.
So just one stool.
What?
Has it just got one stool?
Just the one stool. Yes.
Well, what happens if someone comes over? Where do you make them sit?
Well,
you make them stand.
No, you idiot. If we'd eat in the dining room, wouldn't we, at a table?
How many tables? You've got one chair there?
No, 6.
6?
6, yeah.
Why have you got 6?
Well, because it's a table and chairs.
When was the last time you had a dinner for 6?
Not recently.
No, not this century.
No. Well, no, not recently.
So have you got a breakfast bar then?
Yeah, I've got a breakfast bar, yeah. Yes.
Just with one stool?
Yes.
It's not much of a breakfast bar, is it?
Well, why would I need more than one stool?
Well, because a breakfast bar normally would be big enough to have about 3 stools.
Well, I live on my own, so
I know that,
if I need another stool, I'd go and buy one.
Yeah, but it looks weird if you've only got one stool and there's places for 3 people.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Honestly, the others would get in the way, wouldn't they?
Well, no, they wouldn't.
The clean lady would have to lift them up when she's cleaning the floor and all that kind of stuff, you know. So it's not a policy. But anyway, all I was saying is, you know, you see these fantastic kitchens. There's another programme knocking around.
Well, also, if you walk, I mean, sometimes you go past a kitchen shop, or you go into one of those big kind of, you know, places like Wickes or something like that. And you see all the big kitchens there. And I mean, it is not. I mean, I love actually very modern kitchens, you know. Yeah. Because I spend a lot of time in kitchens. So I'd like to, you know,
I like cooking, yeah.
Well, I do like cooking, and also it tends to be a place where when you have people round, you know, people sort of, you know, coagulate around it, don't they?
Well, they do if it's big enough, and drink a bit of booze while you're cooking the meal. Listen, talking about kitchens, by the way, did you know that eggs are back in fashion?
Eggs?
In a big way.
I didn't know they ever went out of fashion.
Well, apparently they did.
Well, you don't eat eggs, though?
No, I've never eaten an egg in my life, but I mean, I'm very interested to see this because if I could have one wish, it would be for God to suddenly give me the appetite to enjoy eggs, because I don't think there's anything better looking than bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Right.
You ever have that?
What do you mean if I ever had it?
Do you ever have it?
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah, all the time?
Well, not all the time, no.
A fried egg and bacon with mushroom and a bit of
a full English breakfast, I would say I have maybe no more than about once a month.
Yeah, okay.
Point, you know?
Yeah, okay.
There's a very nice cafe, actually, not a million miles from where I live.
Really?
Down
you go for breakfast sometimes?
And occasionally. Well, in fact, we had a couple of kids staying over and I took them all there for breakfast.
Oh, that's nice.
Which was great.
Well, you see, funny enough, when I couldn't help the old chap with his wheel the other day, I was dashing over to a breakfast
appointment. What are you going to do, by the way,
appointment.
What are you going to do if you see him again?
Well, I won't worry.
You're going to blank him? You are, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because, I mean, he's not going to be too keen on you, is he?
Well,
you know, the man that he asked for help. I mean, just shirked his responsibilities.
I nearly invoked the fact that only 1/3 of my heart works, and therefore it would be dangerous.
Like you did with that guy with the wheelchair.
Yeah, that's right.
I did. You didn't want to push him all the way home.
No, but I pushed him a lot of the way home. I was very good to him. Now it says here, 60 years after the nation was told to go to work on an egg, that was the famous advertising campaign. Yeah. I think George Best also promoted it.
He might have done, yeah. They had quite a lot of big names.
They did, yeah. It's back on the centrepiece of British Race. Sales of eggs are up 5% on last year.
Oh, yeah.
And have risen almost a quarter compared to 7 years ago.
Yeah. Do you know what I think that's down to?
What?
I think it's down to the Great British Bake Off. I'll tell you why. Because more and more people are now baking their own cakes. And
you think so?
you need eggs to make your own cakes.
Yeah, we don't have cakes for breakfast. This is eggs back on the breakfast table.
No, but they're saying the sale of eggs has gone up.
That's right.
They're assuming that it's on the breakfast table. I'm saying it may not be.
This is what the experts put it down to. The revival comes amid a backlash against sugar and processed cereal that millions of families previously chose to eat. Eggs have also benefited from the success of protein-based diets.
Oh, yeah.
The increase of 5% so far this year means the nation is buying 828,000 more eggs every day.
Yeah.
That's nearly 1 million.
Well, I'm sure it's down to the baking. I don't think it's anything to do with people eating more eggs. I think they've got that wrong.
Do you know how many eggs we sell in this country every day?
How many?
17.4 million.
Really?
How do we produce that amount of eggs?
Well, imagine how many chickens that involves.
That's what I mean. 17.4 million a day, adding up to more than...
How many would you think?
Hey?
How many chickens, then?
What do you mean?
Well, for 17.4 million eggs,
how
many chickens?
In a 24-hour cycle, can a chicken produce 3 eggs?
No.
No?
Only one egg.
Really? In a 24-hour cycle?
Yeah, one egg,
Well, that means somewhere in this country we've got 17.4 million chickens.
Correct.
Where do they all live?
Well, they don't all live in one place, do they?
No, of course they don't, you idiot.
Like, some place in, like, Peterborough.
But, I mean, that is amazing.
Well, no, it's not.
You hardly ever see a chicken in this country.
I saw some at the weekend.
Perhaps they're all in these horrible factory farms.
Well, no, because there's a lot more free-range chicken going on there.
Is there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe there's some secret place where they're all hanging out. 17.4 million chickens. That's a lot of chickens.
It's an awful lot of chickens. I mean, that is just an enormous amount of chickens. Yeah. If chickens each took a seat at Wembley Stadium, and there are 90,000 seats, divide 90,000 into... No, seriously, into 17.4 million. Well, if it was 100,000, it'd be 10 to 1 million, 170. I reckon that's 200 times the number of people in Wembley Stadium for any football match is the number of chickens we've got in this country.
Hang on, how many? 14.7 million, was it? Or 17.4?
17.4.
17.4 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Divided by 90,000 is about 200.
Uh-huh.
And that means that 200 times you'd have to fill Wembley Stadium over and over again with chickens to produce the number of eggs that you need in this country every day to meet the demand. It's utterly amazing. How do they move 17.4 million eggs around the country every day?
In a lorry.
Well, of course, but quite a lot of lorries, I would say.
A lot of lorries, yeah.
I think I'll start a new business. I'll call it the Egg Lorry Transport Company, because you'd make a fortune. People eating all those many eggs.
Imagine how many get broken as well.
Yeah. If you want to keep fuller for longer, says health expert Dr. Michael Mosley, then the evidence is clear that you should eat a breakfast that is rich in protein like eggs, ham or fish, rather than sugary cereals or toast. Protein is more satiating than carbohydrates.
Yeah. Seen the time?
Haven't seen the time, but I'm glad we're at that time, because next up is Winners and Losers, is it not?
It is indeed. This is Talk Sport.
Excellent.
To celebrate Rugby World Cup 2015, Talk Sport and MasterCard are turning the world oval. Priceless. This afternoon from 4, join Drive-Time dazzler Darren Goff as he attempts to alter the circular world of sport with a series of odd challenges and win exclusive Rugby World Cup 2015 tickets. Play They Think It's All Over on Talk Sport with MasterCard. Use your MasterCard at Pizza Express up until the 11th of October to be entered into a prize draw for your chance to win tickets to Rugby World Cup 2015.
The BMW i3. It's not just an electric car. It's an electric car that drives like a BMW. Rentals from £299 per month. Discover more at bmw.co.uk/i3. £3,699 initial rental, 36-month hire agreement from BMW Financial Services, subject to status and availability for new vehicles ordered before 31st of December 2015 and registered by 31st of March 2016. UK only, guarantees may be required. Mileage and other conditions apply when you return the vehicle.
Asper's Super Casino Westfield is giving away £100,000 of prizes throughout October and November with a £5,000 cash prize every week. Use your free Aspire card. £100,000 in prizes and a £5,000 weekly cash prize. Open 24/7, free membership too. Asper's Casino Westfield Stratford. So that's why they call it Super. Terms apply. Details at asperstratford.co.uk. Over 18s, play responsibly, gambleaware.co.uk.
There's a person who can spot threats in the sky before they become threats. They can reassemble a pistol in 15 seconds and maintain equipment so advanced most don't even know it exists. That person's you. There are more than 50 roles to choose from in the RAF. You'll receive world-class training to develop new and existing skills. And you can do it full-time as a regular or in your spare time as a reserve. Find your role in the RAF. Search RAF Recruitment now.
Sicario is one of the best reviewed films of the year.
You want to start a war?
This is the future, Kate.
It's a masterclass in mounting tension, says The Times. The Sun calls the experience intense, compelling, and utterly nerve-shredding. The Guardian calls it a white-knuckle action thriller. And GQ calls Sicario the best film of the year so far. It's 5 stars from Total Film, Sky Movies, and Empire. Starring Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, and Josh Brolin.
Don't move! No.
Sicario. In cinemas Thursday. Certificate 15.
This year at Network Q, it's our 25th birthday, and we're celebrating with our best ever offer. 3 years, 0% APR representative. Just head down to your local Network Q retailer from the 2nd to the 12th of October to get your approved used Vauxhall. No one does it like Q. Network Q. 0% APR representative for 3 years, available on selected models only at participating retailers. Conditional sale. Financed by Vauxhall Finance. Subject to status 18s or over. T's and C's and exclusions apply.
Talk Sport.
And now it's time for the winners and losers. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and it's time for the winners and losers competition. It's 4-2 to me at the moment. I have to say, Mr. Parry, you've come off 2 weeks of some horrendous choices. Lots of people have been giving you a lot of flack on Twitter over it and saying that they hope that this week you're going to come up with something which at least people could feel they can vote for.
I will.
In some, some hope of you actually winning it.
Well, do you know what? I've tried to be expansive in my thoughts, but I've decided I'm a bit ahead of my time.
Right.
So I've decided to go to more straightforward choices this week.
Nothing obvious.
You'll appreciate it.
Nothing obvious.
Well, sort of obvious,
really?
But with a twist to them. With a twist, yeah.
All right, well, I mean, as per the alternative system that we're using, this week you will be favourited, which some people believe is a better chance of winning.
Excellent.
And I will be retweeted.
Excellent.
Although, of course, the last time we did this, I won that one as well. But if you're ready to go with your 3 losers of the weekend...
Yes, I'm ready to go.
Please go.
Right, OK, my first loser of the weekend is Ian Ritchie.
Ian Ritchie?
Yep.
OK.
Who's he?
I don't know.
He's the chief executive of the RFU, the Rugby Football Union.
OK.
And he's the man, of course, who installed Stuart Lancaster as a coach. Stuart Lancaster may have been a good PE teacher, but he's a hopeless coach.
Right. So has this guy lost his job then?
Who?
This guy Ritchie?
No.
Well, how's he a loser then?
He's a loser because he appointed Lancaster.
Well, he's still working, though.
I don't care. He has disgraced English rugby by appointing an incompetent coach. We are now out of our own World Cup. We didn't get out of the pool stages. Yeah. It's the worst performance of any host nation in any World Cup ever. It's a shambolic, shameful position to be in. Yeah. And the man who put us there was Ian Ritchie by choosing Lancaster in the first place and not being able to control a team of coaches under Stuart Lancaster, because Andy Farrell, who's the England backs coach, is now thought to have been hugely influential with Stuart Lancaster's running of the team, and that just prompted chaos and a change of tactics at crucial times during the World Cup campaign.
I see. I think it's fair to blame him. But anyway, off you go.
It certainly is.
If you think that's a good enough loser, I'm not sure I concur. But go ahead. What's your second one?
It's got to be John W. Henry.
Yeah.
It's got to be. He's the
loser.
He's a complete loser.
Why?
He's the owner of Liverpool.
Yeah.
When he came in, they inherited Roy Hodgson, who left Liverpool but went on to become the England manager. And, you know, people can have their own opinions about how well Roy Hodgson's done as England manager. But then appointed Kenny Dalglish, King Kenny, because clearly he felt that was something that the fans would love, and so he sought popularity because Kenny Dalglish is the most famous and popular man at Anfield. That didn't work, so he then appointed a young British manager called Brendan Rodgers from a club, Swansea, hopelessly, not hopelessly, but well unqualified to take on the role of putting Liverpool back at the top of the perch. He's now gone.
So what you've basically
done... That's a catalogue of failure.
What you've basically done is taken two situations, which are very obvious losing situations, and you've put a name to them which you think nobody else would have thought of.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what you've done.
Absolutely. Right. John W. Henry for Liverpool is definitely a loser.
But if he appoints Jurgen Klopp as the next manager, then that'll be a great thing.
Well, how do we know that?
Well, I'm not sure that it's going to happen.
There's too many ifs in that.
There are.
He runs it, and if Jurgen Klopp does well... Yeah, and buts. So John W. Henry for Liverpool for getting them in a terrible situation. I think it's a brilliant choice. Ian Ritchie for the rugby union bar. And my third one...
Have you got one for Sunderland as well?
No.
Oh, right.
My third one is the Scottish politician Alex Salmond.
Oh, yeah.
Who has been trying to travel on British Airways flights between London and Scotland under the name Captain James T. Kirk.
Yeah, it's not very clever, that, is it?
And was amazed when he was told by a British Airways official in London that he couldn't get on the aeroplane because the name in his passport, which actually said Alex Salmond, which isn't surprising because his name is Alex Salmond.
That's indeed what his passport would say.
Yes, did not coincide with the name on his ticket, which said Captain James T. Kirk, who in fact is the mythical captain of Starship Enterprise.
That's true, yeah.
So I'm afraid when you pull a trick like that and then you protest afterwards that... Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
You said mythical.
Yeah, it is.
It's not really mythical, is it? How about fictional?
Fictional, but it's also a myth.
Well, not really.
No, it's not a myth. It is fictional, yeah. And
I'd say that's a myth, that entire loser's scenario.
So I would say Alex Salmond, bigger loser of the weekend. So I say to this house, or whatever they say, I commend to this house, Alex Salmond, loser because of the Captain James Kirk.
Terrible.
Ian Ritchie, Chief Executive of the RFU, has disgraced the nation. And John W. Henry is all over the place running Liverpool. There you go.
I don't think that's very imaginative at all. Well, my three losers are as follows, right? ITV is the big loser for me because ITV paid a fortune, tens and tens of millions of pounds to put the Rugby World Cup on, right? Yeah. And now that England have been knocked out of it, they're going to lose minimum £1 million a game because people are not going to want to look at it and people are not going to want to watch England play in Uruguay, never mind all of the other games that they've scheduled in. And because not only have they paid loads of money, but they've also shunted the X Factor way later than it should be during prime time television because of the rugby.
Rather obvious.
You know, many people were writing beforehand that this could be a great big gamble that pays off for ITV. Well, it hasn't paid off, and I think ITV are the massive losers. The second losers of the weekend, Colin Pascoe and Mike Marsh. You know who they are?
Never heard of them.
Colin Pascoe and Mike Marsh. These are the guys who were Brendan Rodgers' mates who were brought into Liverpool to be coaches, right?
Yes.
Do you remember at the beginning of the season, they were swept away unceremonially by Brendan Rodgers. Now, how many times...
No, they weren't by Brendan Rodgers. They were by the committee above him.
No, he chose that they should go, right? Now, they must be sitting around now going, look, if only we'd hung on for 8 games, we'd still be employed. Because what they should have done is said, actually, I don't think this guy's got any right to get rid of us. We're going to stand our ground. And imagine if they'd said, look, we're going to take you to a tribunal. No. They would still be gainfully employed.
I can tell you, Mike, it wasn't Brendan Rodgers who got rid of them.
Yeah, you're wrong about that.
It was the committee above him, and Brendan Rodgers was told, I don't want to. He said, well, they're going, and if you can't stand it, you have to go as well. Yeah. And he stayed. And
that shows you what weakness will do.
Yes.
Now, we should probably move on quickly, because otherwise we'll have no time.
Yeah.
My final loser of the weekend is Artur Boruc. You know, the goalkeeper for Bournemouth. I don't know if you saw his blunder that caused Watford to get an equaliser.
Yes.
Because had it not been for that, Bournemouth would have been shunted another 2 points up the table.
Rubbish.
They would be happily sitting in mid-table. You just heard Stephen Caldwell there saying that Bournemouth are going to have struggled to the second part of the season. This could be a very valuable 2 points. It is one of the biggest goalkeeping blunders I've ever seen in my life.
What, really?
So I'm putting him down as a loser of the week.
So in the last week, you think that was the biggest goalkeeping blunder?
I think it was at least... it's the most costly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not Arsenal's goalkeeper dropping it over the line?
No, Arsenal got slaughtered.
That happened in the last week.
No, Arsenal got slaughtered.
Oh, that's rubbish. Arsenal's goalkeeper...
Are you talking about the Champions League?
Yeah, made by far the bigger mistake.
No, because Arsenal were never going to win that game. Well, however, Bournemouth could have won this game, and that's why it's a far more important blunder.
Yeah, rubbish.
Let's have the winners now.
Okay.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's no lie. That's no lie. You never fail to satisfy.
Now it's time for the winners, of course. Yes. Mr. Parry will be favoured this week. I'll be retweeted. We haven't got a lot of time, so you have to run through your 3 winners as quickly as you possibly can, please.
OK, here we go. The first winner, and everybody will love this one, Frankie Dettori, for winning the L'Arc de Triomphe, the 4th time he's won that prestigious race in his comeback in his career after he won the Epsom Derby, of course. The second one is Bernard Foley, because although we got beaten by Australia, one could not but admire the way Australia played, and I thought Bernard Foley was so outstanding, it was just a pleasure to watch him. And the third one is the England 1950 soccer team who got beaten 1-0 in Brazil by the USA in 1950. And
you've got somebody in this from 1950?
Yes, from 1950.
65 years ago.
65 years ago.
Yeah.
The members of that team have been harangued ever since as the greatest failure of any international team representing England in the history of sport. Yeah. They have now been overtaken by the England rugby team, who failed to get out of their pool and who made a shambles of the competition on their own soil.
So the formerly biggest losers of all time have now become winners.
They have become winners.
Absolutely shocking.
They have become winners because the present England rugby team are even more shamefully embarrassed than the England soccer team in 1950. They're my third winners.
OK, right. My ones are as follows. Sergio Aguero. I can't believe you missed this one out. Sergio Aguero, who everybody was saying, what's the problem with Sergio Aguero? Do you have any idea why Sergio Aguero is a massive winner this week?
That's so obvious. 5 goals in a game.
Yeah, he scored 5, the quickest ever 5 goals in the Premier League.
So
Not
obvious.
only that, but before this, he'd only scored 1 goal in the Premier League, but he fired himself into the record books because he scored that penalty at the end of the game against Borussia Mönchengladbach. They got the 3 points in the Champions League. And I think Sergio Aguero needs to be recognised. He's now the second highest Premier League goal scorer this season behind Jamie Vardy.
Yes.
So he's my first one. My second winner, of course, is Dick Advocaat. Dick Advocaat left Sunderland. He knows that they're in a perilous state. He knows that they're probably going down.
You think he's a winner?
The reason that he's a winner is because he didn't ask for any money. And he actually showed that in some cases of football, you can have great principle. You can walk away and leave the money in the club and say, that's OK, you can use that to get a new manager, rather than me milking it and walking away with a load of cash. And then my final winner of the week is Jose Mourinho. Because Jose Mourinho has tried his best to get fired. He's got the club playing absolutely badly, as you can see them play. He started as badly as he's ever started as a manager of any team. And yet, he's been given the vote of confidence by Roman Abramovich, and even though he's now been charged yet again by the FA, he's been even trying to noise them up. He's tried his best to be treated as a sexist. He had the whole business going on with Dr. Eva.
This is a man who's given Chelsea their worst start in 37 years.
But he's still there.
He's
still there.
Well, he's not a winner, I'm telling you.
Well,
ridiculous choice.
He certainly is.
Votes for Porky and votes often.
Those are my winners. I'll send out a tweet very shortly on the Two Mikes account. You retweet for me and you favourite for Mr. Parry.
I'm going to win this one, I'm certain.
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. Winners and losers has just been completed. If you go at the Two Mikes account on Twitter, you'll be able to retweet for me and favourite for Mr. Parry. The voting will be open, of course, until midnight, as ever. And then we'll report on the findings coming up on the show tomorrow morning.
And when you listen to the podcast in the morning, folks, do listen hard to winners and losers, because I genuinely believe mine were of quality this week. You know, I've sometimes gone a bit off the wall to try and stimulate your thinking pattern, but you don't need any stimulation of thinking pattern. I got it absolutely right.
Well, here's a few immediate reactions to it. Okay?
Excellent.
Ant says, another defeat for Porky. His selections for winners and losers were atrocious.
No,
this will be a
brilliant.
landslide victory for ROMG.
Oh, no, your choices were hopeless.
Dave says, winners and losers both bad this week. I can't decide. One from Joseph, who says, how can Porky not mention Sergio Aguero in his list?
Too
it's
obvious.
Beyond me.
Too obvious.
Here's one from Lord Rallo, says, Mike Graham's choice of Jose as a winner is ridiculous and costing my vote. Vote for Porky and vote often.
Thank you.
Sean says, I'm abstaining this week. Standards are slipping.
No, they're not. We're just getting
ridiculous.
deeper and more cerebral in the thinking.
And here's one from Joshua, who says, just seen Porky's Cinnamon Challenge doing the rounds on Facebook. Had me in stitches. #legend.
It's supposed to be a serious investigation into a medical condition.
And Roy says, Porky's winners, 1, a jockey, 2, Aussie rugby player, 3, 1950 World Cup England losers.
Yes.
That's even more pathetic than his losers.
No. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant way of thinking.
Roy's losers, Porky's losers, he says, 1, still employed, 2, John W. Henry, a billionaire, 3, a politician who couldn't board a plane. Pathetic.
No, brilliant. Listen, talking about winners and losers, by the way, I read a fantastic interview with Lord Alan Sugar at the weekend in the Sunday Times colour magazine on Saturday.
Did he not say that if Jeremy Corbyn becomes Prime Minister, he's going to emigrate to China?
Yes, that's right, he did, yeah.
There's been a lot of noise about China, actually, in the papers this morning, isn't there?
Why?
You've seen that? Well, I think George Osborne's been, banging on about how...
Well, he's been out there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has, but I think he's also been saying that he wants people to be more like Chinese workers.
In fact, I was quite... surprised. I was going to say amused, but that's not fair to say about a fellow journalist. Geordie Gregg, who's the editor of the Mail on Sunday, interviewed George Osborne in China and had the typical picture of him sitting on the plane next to George Osborne.
Yeah.
Why have to go all the way to China to interview the...
Yeah, I know. He lives down the road.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer. I've no idea.
Well,
but
maybe he fancied a trip to China.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he did. I'm not knocking it. But anyway...
this is work like the Chinese, it says on the front page of The Independent.
Jeremy
Hunt apparently sparks outrage by suggesting that Britain's low-paid should work as hard as the Chinese to make up for cuts to their tax credits.
Well, funny thing is, part of the interview with Lord Alan Sugar... was he actually questioned, are there any poor people left in England? Because of our very generous welfare, welfare system.
I discovered something over the weekend, which actually quite shocked me. I was having this kind of Twitter spat with a guy about the number of children living supposedly in poverty in this country. Do you know what Bernardo's criteria is for children living in poverty?
One mobile phone.
Well, no, it's a
one
figure.
Facebook. Yeah.
It's a figure, right? They're talking about a family of 4 who only have £19,500 left as disposable income after they've paid for their dwelling, i.e. whether it's a mortgage or whether it's a rental, right? Which basically means they've got something akin to
£1,500 a month.
Yeah, and anybody below that is currently listed as living...
£1,500 a month, you can buy an awful lot of, food and drink and take the kids out and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, that's what they now class as poverty in this country.
Well, Lord Sugar said, I don't get it. He's a man who tried to ring up the, Department of Pensions or something and say, can you please stop sending me the winter fuel allowance? Yeah. I don't actually need it. Right. And they couldn't because of the paperwork. But the most interesting thing was... he was asked by his interviewer, he wouldn't sort of specifically say how wealthy he is because it became apparent from this interview that he's made most of his money actually out of property dealing, not electronics. Electronics founded his fortune. Amstrad, that's right, absolutely. And
which I've always loved the amusing quote that I can't remember who said it, but when there were only 2 kinds of computers in the world that you could buy, Amstrad were the worst.
Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Yeah, but no, he's got a massive property empire now. But he wouldn't actually say exactly how much he's worth and all that. But the interviewer said, well, look, if somebody came into this room now and said that you owed them £100 million, what would you do? And he said, get out a chequebook and write them a cheque for £100 million. I said, what would happen then? He said, well, I'd tell them where my bank is. I'd go to my bank, they'd put it over the counter.
Really?
He said, and would they honour 100? He said, of course they'd honour £100 million. Why not? So that's the extent of his wealth. But it is a really fascinating piece because people think that Lord Sugar is rather... difficult to get on with, all this kind of stuff and all that.
Well, a lot of that's a front, I think, isn't it?
Well, I don't think it is. I met him a couple of times. Yeah.
When you and I did the mid-morning show, he came in, didn't
That's
he?
right, he came in,
and he was quite grumpy.
He was grumpy.
But I think that's part of his act, though.
I think it is part of his act. When I asked him, are you looking forward to the interview? He said, not particularly. Yeah. And I said, I thought, that's quite offensive, considering we're going to give you airtime. I think he
just likes to be brusque.
So I said, so why did you bother coming in? And he pointed to his PR man and said, because he told me to.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's very nice, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's also because he's now involved in television and he has to do all that stuff. But he doesn't suffer fools gladly, which is no bad thing.
Absolutely. But
he's quite a warm individual, actually, when you get to know him a little bit. I mean, I was at Piers Morgan's party.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, as much as he makes fun of Piers on Twitter and they abuse each other, they're actually really good mates.
Oh, yeah, I know that, yeah, because when Piers was the editor of the Daily Mirror and Lord Sugar was a huge supporter of the Labour Party, the men had a lot in common.
They did.
In terms of Lord Sugar being a potentially wealthy benefactor of Labour. I don't know whether he did give money or not. And
I think he did at one point.
I think he did,
to Tony Blair, but I don't think he'd do it now.
Small amounts, though.
Yeah.
And compared to his wealth. And, of course, Piers was running the organ which is synonymous with the Labour Party and Labour politicians.
Indeed.
So that's true. But it was absolutely fascinating stuff because he literally, I mean, a lot of people, you know, gone about these rags to riches and all that. And a lot of people who claim they're wealthy are actually con men.
Yeah.
They just have an affectation of wealth.
Yeah.
You know, they have a surface wealth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've
on
got...
paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see that story about... I almost included him in the winners and losers, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit too obscure. Some billionaire in China has lost something like 85% of his wealth. He's still got £1 billion.
Yeah.
But he had £10 billion until the recent stock market crash.
Oh, really?
And he's lost 85% of his wealth.
Well, just through the stock market sinking.
The price of... Yeah, so which is why when you say, you know, people are worth an amount of money on paper.
That's right.
It was a bit like you. I mean, presumably, if all of your houses were worth the amount of money that they're worth now, you are worth a lot of money. But if suddenly there was some property crash, you could lose all of it.
Yeah, could, yeah, but I won't. I'm smarter than the average bear, you know.
Well, maybe so. Now, let me read you this from John in Horsham, who says, just got in from work and had to text in to thank Mr. Parry for giving me and my workmates the biggest laugh this year.
Yes.
We watched the Cinnamon Challenge and cried with laughter. So good we watched it half a dozen times.
Oh, really?
Thanks for brightening up a shift.
Oh, that's okay,
I have to say,
mate.
I mean, we do this, we show this in our live show.
We do.
Next one coming up in Birmingham on November 13th,
That's
of course.
right.
And no matter how many times you see it, it is very, very funny, I have to say.
Well,
funniest thing you've ever done.
It's. I'm glad it amuses. It didn't set out to be funny, of course. We just set out to do the Cinnamon Challenge. But anyway, there we go. I'm glad you enjoy it. It's been nicked off us by some other Facebook site, but we're working on that one. But anyway, as long as people enjoy it, that's okay. I can't get too concerned about that.
Here's one from, let's see, Kenny in Liverpool. He says you'd need 193.3 Wembleys to fit all those chickens, but I'd round it up to 194 because I couldn't see chickens using all the corporate seats somehow.
No, you're probably right.
Quite
and
right,
I said
that.
200. So
also, you get more than one chicken on a seat.
As a mental... Yeah, but I'm talking about the number of seats in there.
Yeah, but you get more than one chicken on a seat.
There's a mental calculation. I got it about right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent. Now,
okay, that's excellent.
Well, it is excellent that I nearly got it right.
That's your message for moving on, right?
Yeah. Well,
you got something else to say?
Listen, when is the next time you'll be going on honeymoon?
What?
When's the next time you'll be going on honeymoon?
Well, I haven't got any plans to go on honeymoon on account of me not being married.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, you go on honeymoon when you get married.
Yes, but you might be getting married.
Really?
That's all I'm thinking.
That's news to me.
Well, I don't know.
Nobody's asked me.
Well, you have a family with children and a partner and all that. Well, you say. Anyway, look, the reason I'm asking you this is that...
come with me?
No. Well, funny you should say that, because honeymoons are now going out of fashion, and there's now something else called the buddy moon.
Buddy moon?
You take all your mates with you.
What?
You take all your mates with
That's
you.
a really bad
Romantic
idea.
honeymoons based around holding hands on an empty beach are all well and good, but inviting along a gang of friends makes them so much better. To say
That's rubbish.
So say an increasing number of newlyweds who are ditching the chance to begin married life in splendid isolation to party with their pals instead.
Although I'll tell you what, when I was in Mexico,
Yep.
one of the I wouldn't say the highlights, but one of the things that went on in the first week we were there was a Sikh wedding that went on.
Right.
And there was something like, it must have been over 100 people as guests who had come to the wedding.
Yes.
And because of the way that the Sikh religion operates their wedding,
Sure.
sort of, it goes on for about 5 or 6 days.
That's right, yeah.
And everywhere we went around the resort, there'd be another party going on
Really?
or another ceremony.
It's amazing.
And they'd obviously brought all these people. And so the second week, suddenly it was a lot quieter.
Right.
You know,
all
even
gone
like
home.
going into the restaurant and everything else. And they'd all gone home.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was a similar thing, because they got married, but maybe they had the sort of honeymoon as well in the same place.
Apparently this has been pioneered by Jennifer Aniston and Justin Theroux.
Oh, yeah.
He's a partner.
I thought they went off to a private island somewhere.
Well, it says, yeah, exactly. They hung out with a group of friends in Bora Bora.
Oh, yeah.
While Reese Witherspoon had a family holiday in Belize with her new husband and her children and friends.
Right.
And apparently it's a growing thing.
Well, I suppose the nature of weddings and marriages and all that is different now, because if you've got grown-up children or children who are, are older than like little infants, you're going to take them along with you, I suppose.
Well, it goes the other.
But I wouldn't take a lot of mates with me, though.
Well, they do apparently. New innovations at weddings is that in addition to the best man speech, the bride now makes a big speech.
Yeah,
do you know that?
I've heard that. Yeah,
have you?
I haven't really. See, the funny thing is there's a period in your life when you go to a lot of weddings.
Yes.
When you're kind of between 25 and 35, I would
Well,
say.
I didn't. Yours is the only wedding I ever went to.
Well, that's because you haven't got any friends, though.
No, I have. Oh, no, I went to my mate's wedding, but he did make me best man, so I got the hump and got drunk.
Yeah. Well, looks like every other night.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the two mates.